Chapter 339. Who are you to make a comeback? If they had known earlier, they would have bought the little beggar. What a beautiful girl, what a delicate appearance. She was perfect for warming the bed and ravaging. Only 10 copper coins would be enough. It wouldn't even be enough to spend 1 tael of silver in the secular world. Qin Hao bought such a beauty casually. His ancestors' luck was too good. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy, jealousy, and a trace of hatred. Qin Hao was also stunned. He was not surprised by the little beggar's appearance. It was her delicate and timid feeling. It was very similar to someone. It was very familiar, as if it was deep in his heart. It was as if, at this moment, a familiar face emerged from the bottom of his heart. Xiao Han. It was too similar to Xiao Han's helpless look back then. What's your name? Qin Hao asked gently. My name is Yu. My father gave me the name, but my father… Thinking of this, the little beggar could not help but burst into tears. Her father had died of illness. He was her only family in the world. In the future, she would be all alone. Yu. Qin Hao thought for a moment and shook his head. It's a little tacky. You'll be called Xing. The girl's eyes were very bright, like the stars under the night sky. It seemed to have a kind of magic. Thank you for being willing to buy me, young master. You will work hard. No. Xing will work hard to repay your kindness. Xing hurriedly knelt down when she heard that. She knew that Qin Hao was not playing with her. He was really going to bury her father for her. After all, he had even given her a name. At least in the future, she would no longer live alone in the world. Sister Xing don't be nervous. Brother Hao is a very good person. He cares about people very much. Nalanli was also quite emotional about the girl's experience and helped her up from the ground. I'll take you to change your clothes and wash up. Qin Hao looked up in the direction of the second floor. Master Hai had not come down yet. He took the opportunity to buy 2 sets of suitable clothes for Xing. Dressing like this, it was inevitable that people would dislike her and look down on her. Besides, it was not good to follow Qin Hao. Wrap up these 3 pieces of jewelry for me. Also, Shaoli girl, you and your sister can choose any jade piece you want. I will pay for it. Pinching Nalanli's cheeks, Qin Hao brought Xing to the service area. The reason why he didn't buy it for Naransu and Nalanli in front of everyone was because the jades here were too vulgar. The only jade hairpin that Qin Hao had taken a fancy to was broken by that hateful Yao Chan. Naransu and Nalanli responded. She was very excited. She and Naransu took 2 items at random and chased after Qin Hao. To be honest, she really didn't care about the things here. She wasn't here to buy anything at all. She was here to play with Qin Hao. Young master, please wait. Yao Chan hurriedly stopped Qin Hao. Holding the broken pieces of the jade hairpin in her hands, she pleaded, Young master, take pity on me and buy this jade hairpin for me. Qin Hao bought 3 jade ornaments for Xing. He was so generous that it made everyone's eyes pop. Yi Shuihan also revealed Qin Hao's identity. He was a core disciple of Scarlet Sun sect and received 88 yen crystals every month. He was very rich. He didn't even look down on a beggar. This made Yao Chan even more certain that this was a vain, hot-headed young man who didn't care about money. Moreover, Yao Chan thought that she had some beauty. She only needed to pretend to be pitiful and she would definitely win Qin Hao's sympathy. Once Qin Hao's sympathy overflowed, she wouldn't have to pay for the things she broke. Damn, this was too wonderful. Actually, young master, I have long seen that your identity is extraordinary. You are not comparable to those trash disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy. I have admired young master for a long time. If you have time, I am willing to tonight, no, right now, accompany you to a place where no one is around and study life and dreams together. While speaking, Yao Chan began to flirt with Qin Hao. She blinked a few times as if she was seducing him. Gulp. On the side, Yi Shuihan swallowed his saliva. One had to admit that Yao Chan was quite good-looking. Big breasts and round buttocks. If it were an ordinary person, no one would refuse. Unfortunately, Qin Hao was not an ordinary person. Sorry, in my eyes, you are not even worth a strand of Xing Er's hair. Go play wherever you want. If you really can't stand the loneliness, there are people selling cucumbers on the side of the road. 1 copper coin for 2 caddies. Qin Hao was too lazy to pay attention to such a snobbish woman. He grabbed Xing Er's hand and left. He was rich, but not everyone was qualified for Qin Hao to spend. Stop right there. You broke my jade hairpin and refused to admit it. If you don't compensate me today, you won't be able to walk out of the High Clan Trading Company. Yao Chan was so angry that her face was trembling. Qin Hao ignored her beauty and even looked at her with disdain. It made her feel very defeated and humiliated. She could not pretend anymore and shamelessly stuck the broken jade hairpin on Qin Hao. Moreover, the shards in her hand were thrown at Qin Hao and Xing Er. These shards were as sharp as glass. If they were hit, they would definitely be injured. Moreover, Yao Chan had used her vitality. She was actually a Yuan master. The power of the shards increased by a lot. Xing Er was so frightened that her expression changed drastically. Buzz. A ball of vitality rose from Qin Hao's body. Without waiting for Yao Chan's attack, Qin Hao rolled up his sleeve and swept the shards into his sleeve. Xing Er, who was beside him, was unharmed. Go. Qin Hao flicked his sleeve and returned all the shards. He controlled them very well. They flew past Yao Chan's cheeks and messed up her hair. They even left a few small wounds on her face. Blood slowly flowed out from her fair skin. I can compensate for the jade hairpin. But you plotted against a customer. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the higher-ups of the trading company? I can also not pursue this matter. In fact, there's no need to pursue this matter. Qin Hao said coldly and left with Xing Er. There was a sense of heroism that said, you don't accompany a fallen tiger. Who are you to make a comeback? Insatiable greed. You brought this upon yourself. Naransu passed by Yao Chan and coldly snorted. Sigh, you're on your own. Yi Xuehan displayed his young master Ye's spirit of universal love. He lightly patted Yao Chan's shoulder, sighed and left. At the same time, he didn't forget to touch her butt. Yao Chan was stunned. She was dumbfounded, but her face was burning with pain. She raised her hand and touched, I'm bleeding. In an instant, Yao Chan's face twisted crazily. She looked at Qin Hao's back as if she could kill someone. At this moment, crack, 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 there was a burst of cracking sounds. The jade wares on the jade shelves all cracked in an instant. If one looked carefully, they would find that there was a small jade hairpin stuck in between each crack. Yao Chan had been avoiding Qin Hao just now, causing those shards to hit her jade wares. Even so, her face was still scratched. These jade wares were priceless. Even if Yao Chan sold them, she would not be able to repay them in 10 lifetimes. At this moment, she suddenly realized what Naransu had said. Insatiable greed. You brought this upon yourself. She also understood Qin Hao's meaning. I won't pursue this matter. There's no need to pursue it, because in the next moment, Yao Chan would definitely be stripped of her identity by the trading company's enforcers and forced to become a beggar on the streets. Chapter 340. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios listened to me in my territory. He brought Xing Er to the clothing area. As if she had been frightened by Yao Chan's arrogance, Xing Er remained silent the entire time. Scanning through the clothes racks in the clothing area, Qin Hao waved his hand and summoned a middle-aged woman. He ordered her to take out a few sets of clothes that he found more pleasing to the eye. Qin Hao picked up the clothes and compared them to Xing Er's body. He thought to himself, they fit. He ordered the woman to bring Xing Er to the back hall for a bath and a change of clothes. The clothing area was extremely large. There was a place in the back hall specially for customers to wash and change their clothes. The service was rather thorough. When the woman in charge of the clothing area saw Chin Hao bring the 3 girls over, she saw that Nalanli and Naransu were still fiddling with jade ornaments in their hands carelessly. The jade ornaments belonged to their company. They were quite expensive. She was slightly older. With her experience, she could tell that Chin Hao and the others were not ordinary. Therefore, she brought Xing to change her clothes respectfully. She had quite a good eye. In the back hall, Xing bathed in the clear pool. The filth on her body was washed away, revealing her snow-white skin. She was like a lotus flower in a pool. However, she came from a grassroots background and did not have enough food to fill her stomach. She seemed rather thin. She raised her hand and sent out some clear water to wash her jade-like arms. Some water droplets splashed onto Xing face. Don't the strong need to be bullied anymore? At that moment, a thought lingered in Xing head. She was still immersed in the scene of Chin Hao sweeping up fragments in the air with a wave of his hand. She still could not extricate herself from it. When she was young, she had also heard that ordinary people would be revered by others if they cultivated and became stronger. Those omnipotent experts could even look down on the world, destroy mountains and stir up clouds. Xing only dared to imagine normally. She had never seen it up close like today. When Yao Chan threw the fragments at her, the sharp fragments wrapped in energy made Xing feel that she was so close to death for the first time. The fear in her heart still lingered in her heart. However, as Chin Hao raised his hand casually, she was brought back to heaven from hell. It was like a dream. Cultivate, become strong, not be bullied, not be looked down on. The strong could defy the heavens, change their own destiny, and transform their lives. These thoughts constantly battered Xing nerves, causing her to secretly clench her small hands. It was as if Chin Hao's raising of his hand had opened a new door for her, allowing Xing to see another world. In the past, her family was poor and she had no money to study. Now that I've been saved by a kind-hearted young master, I must change myself completely. Xing pursed her lips and stubbornness flashed across her face. Tears glistened in her eyes. She must cherish this opportunity. She hoped that by following Chin Hao, she could learn some self-defense techniques, even if it was just a superficial one. Not only did he want to survive, but he also wanted to stop causing trouble for others. If she had the ability to protect herself, the next time she encountered danger, there would be no need for young master to be distracted. She knew very well what it meant for Chin Hao to be distracted. It meant that her safety would increase Chin Hao's danger. Don't you have anything you like? Chin Hao's palm gently stroked Nalanli's hair. Relying on his height, he smoothed her soft hair. He liked the cute and kind little lowly in front of him more and more. However, this kind of liking was only the kind of love an elder brother had for his younger sister. I have a lot of clothes. The styles here are too vulgar, and the material is far inferior to my clothes. Nalanli patted the small bag at her waist, indicating that she had a lot of clothes, and each of them was better than the ones in the high trading company. What about you? Chin Hao looked at Naransu again. I don't need it either. Naransu smiled slightly, looking a little shy. A faint blush could be seen flashing across her face. Oh my God! The thorny rose in the Qiyang outer court was actually shy. If the outer court disciples saw this scene, they would definitely open their mouths in shock. If Lao Yuanliang saw this, he would probably raise his spear and fight Chin Hao to the death. As they spoke, the bead curtain in the back hall of the clothing area was lifted. 2 figures walked out one after another. The person in front was a middle-aged woman, the supervisor of this place. She beamed with joy and said excitedly, "Oh, this lady is so beautiful. She has shed her dust and is like a fairy. Young master, you are so lucky." As she spoke, she moved aside. Xing walked out of the inner court. When she showed her face, no one could react in time. Xing was wearing a white dress with a white phoenix embroidered on it. It was faintly visible, and she looked like a completely different person from the beggar, who was covered in dirt and exuded a foul smell. Yi Shuihan, who was watching from the side, was stunned. It also surprised the two beautiful sisters, Naransu and Nalanli. "Thank you for giving me this dress, young master." Xing stood in front of Qin Hao's door, squatted slightly, and bowed. She lowered her head and was a little shy. She had never worn such beautiful clothes. These clothes were too expensive. Only the daughters of princes, generals, and ministers were qualified to wear them. She felt like she was in a dream. This dress was personally chosen for her by Qin Hao. Beautiful. Qin Hao was stunned and stood there for a long time. He nodded in satisfaction. Xing was indeed a natural beauty. She looked like a completely different person after changing her clothes. Who would have thought that she was a beggar on the streets right now? Others might even think that she was the daughter of some marquis who had left their residence. Truly, clothes make the man and saddles make the horse. Nalanli praised from the side. Even Nalan Zhu had to admit that Qin Hao's luck with women wasn't shallow. With just a casual purchase, he had bought a celestial beauty. What a pretty little beauty. Come, let me take a closer look and have a good time with me. Suddenly, a lewd laugh rang out. A donkey-faced, middle-aged man walked over excitedly. His eyes shone with a lustful light as if he had discovered gold. He extended 2 fingers towards Xing's chin. Creak! Qin Hao extended his hand and squeezed the middle-aged man's fingers tightly. He exerted force and the 2 fingers felt like they were being crushed by a millstone in Qin Hao's hand. The sound of bones groaning in pain rang out. "Ah!" The donkey-faced, middle-aged man screamed. His face was covered in sweat as he shouted, "Let go! Let go! Take care of your claws. If there's a next time, I'll break your fingers." Qin Hao snorted coldly and shook off the middle-aged man's fingers. The middle-aged man staggered and almost fell to the ground. You immature brat. Do you know who I am? How dare you be rude to me, Lord Maliu?" The donkey-faced middle-aged man's face was filled with humiliation. He was an adult. Although he was not a cultivator, it was extremely embarrassing for him to be screamed in pain by a 16 or 17-year-old boy. "May I know who you are, Lord Maliu?" Qin Hao crossed his arms and sneered. He did not want to get into trouble, but it seemed that trouble had come to him again. He could not help but glance at Xing. It was all her fault for being too eye-catching. "I'm sorry, Lord Maliu. A bunch of kids don't know manners. You're a magnanimous person. Why bother?" The middle-aged woman who was selling clothes saw the situation and hurried forward to mediate. Ma Lu's status was not low and he was an important customer of the company. He had some private relations with the company's president, Master Hai. Qin Hao was courting death by going against him. "Get out of my way." Ma Lu pushed the middle-aged woman away and pointed at Qin Hao. His eyes were sharp as he reprimanded, "Listen carefully, kid. I'm Minister Ma. I have 8 properties under my name. I'm a close friend of Master Hai. I'm also his big customer. In fact, I treat Hai's company like my own home. In my territory, you have to stop me. But you, how dare you disrespect me? I didn't know you had such a high status." Qin Hao also laughed. In Hai's company, the donkey-faced middle-aged man wanted to compare status with him? Just whose territory was this? Chapter 341. Don't Run If You Have Guts. The waist token was personally given by Hai Dafu. Once this token was taken out, it was like seeing Hai Dafu in person. Even if Hai Laosi came out and saw the waist token in Qin Hao's hands, he would have to treat Qin Hao like an ancestor. Are you scared? To tell you the truth, I have to buy a lot of goods from Hai Family Trading Company every month. The profits of the trading company are mostly due to my contributions. Master C treats me like a brother. You dare to go against me in my brother's trading company? Hurry up and apologize to me. Ma Lu pointed at Qin Hao's nose and roared with an arrogant expression. It was as if he was the one who earned all the money in High Family Trading Company. Without Ma Lu, the trading company would lose everything. Young man, bear with it for a while and calm down for a while. Take a step back and you'll have a better view. Hurry up and pay the money and leave with these girls. The middle-aged woman hurriedly urged Qin Hao. Ma Lu was someone that normal people could not afford to offend. She felt that Qin Hao was quite pitiful. He was a group of young people from the academy. But he was bullied by a middle-aged man like Ma Lu. Leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, Xing Naransu, and Nalan Li would inevitably be humiliated by Ma Lu. Qin Hao would definitely be crippled by him. Young master, how about I apologize to him? Xing bit her teeth. Although she was unwilling because Ma Lu was too despicable, she was now Qin Hao's maid and had to think for her master. Apologize to him? Why should I? Qin Hao pointed at Ma Lu's donkey face. He was amused by Xing cowardice. His eyes suddenly flashed and became colder. His gaze seemed to be saying, he took liberties with you and you apologize to him? Do you have any dignity? Xing was clearly frightened by Qin Hao's gaze. Her body trembled slightly, and she quickly lowered her head as if she had done something wrong. She thought, that's right, why should I apologize to the donkey-faced middle-aged man? In Xing heart, Qin Hao was an expert. The strong didn't need to apologize to anyone. However, Qin Hao's gaze had been deeply imprinted into Xing heart. As a result, the great witch Xing who later struck fear into the hearts of the experts of the divine wilderness continent, became as docile as a kitten when she saw the sharp gaze of her master. Alright, you've got guts. Don't leave if you have the guts. When Master High C comes out, see how I'll deal with you. I'll make you kneel, kowtow, and call me your ancestor 10,000 times. Ma Lu was just an ordinary person who had never cultivated before. He knew that he wasn't a match for Qin Hao, who came from an academy. However, he was not afraid at all. He used his gaze to threaten Qin Hao a few times before glancing at Xing and Naransu's figures. In the end, he reluctantly retreated to the side. As long as Hai Laosi came out from upstairs, he would immediately let Qin Hao see how many eyes Ma Wangya had. As soon as old Fourth Hai came out, he wanted me to kneel, kowtow, and call him old ancestor 10,000 times, right? Alright, I'll wait for you. Qin Hao decided not to leave. He pulled over a stool and sat on it. He didn't want to cause trouble, but Ma Lu had stretched his face out for Qin Hao to slap. If he didn't slap this donkey's face, he would be letting down the golden token in his interspatial ring. This scene frightened the middle-aged woman quite a bit. She pointed at Qin Hao and shook her head. This young man didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He would definitely pay the price in blood. Senior brother Tianhua, it's him. That bastard sitting on the chair. He pretended to be rich and humiliated us. It's as if he's the richest person in the world. He doesn't put you in his eyes at all. This is a naked provocation to you. At this moment, a sinister instigation sounded. Qin Hao turned his head to look. He saw a large group of people aggressively surrounding him. He was very familiar with this group of people. They were the disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy who had been taught a lesson by Qin Hao in the Jade District. However, Qin Hao didn't recognize the person in the middle who was wearing a green robe and a green hat. However, there was a pattern embroidered on this person's chest. It was a crescent moon with a few stars beside it. His attire was different from the disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy. Qin Hao guessed that this person should be a disciple of Star Moon Academy based on his attire. The star and moon pattern on his chest was silver, indicating that he was an outer court disciple. In fact, Qin Hao's guess was right. The person wearing the green hat was an outer court disciple of Star Moon Academy. He was ranked 5th on the Earth ranking and was called Pang Tianhua. Earlier, the disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy were unconvinced after being taught a lesson by Qin Hao. They were about to look around to see if there were any seniors from their academy shopping. Coincidentally, they bumped into Star Moon Academy's Pang Tianhua, who had just entered the hall. Their eyes lit up. Pang Tianhua's status in Star Moon Academy wasn't low. He was ranked 5th on the Earth ranking. More importantly, he was one of the wealthiest young masters in the Imperial City. Without hesitation, the disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy immediately came forward and told him about their conflict with Qin Hao. Pang Tianhua immediately clapped his hands. Wow, a country bumpkin dared to act rich in front of him. He didn't put this young master in his eyes at all. Competing with money? He, Pang Tianhua, was worried that he didn't have an opponent. However, the heavens arranged for Qin Hao, this nouveau riche, to appear. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. The chance to act pretentious had come. In fact, he didn't want to argue with Qin Hao. In his eyes, Qin Hao wasn't worthy. However, he heard from the disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy that Qin Hao had 2 peerless beauties by his side. Moreover, they were a rare pair of sisters. This aroused Pang Tianhua's interest and stirred up his restless heart. He also heard that Qin Hao was a core disciple of Qiyang University. This was even more wonderful. There was nothing more exciting than being able to crush a core disciple of the Scarlet Sun Academy and taking the opportunity to snatch the other party's girlfriend. Pang Tianhua liked to steal his juniors' girlfriends at Star Moon Academy. He believed that Qin Hao was born for him. He came without hesitation. Hey, you're the outer court core disciple of Qiyang University, the trashiest of the 4 great academies. You're the one who openly challenged me, right? Before he even reached Qin Hao, Pang Tianhua was already so arrogant that his nose was raised to the sky. The moment he appeared, his eyes lit up. As expected, Qin Hao really did have a pair of beautiful sisters by his side. The younger one was a lowly, while the older one was a bud waiting to bloom. She was simply too alluring. Immediately, Pang Tianhua's saliva flowed uncontrollably from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were as greedy as a hungry wolf's. His expression showed that he couldn't wait to take Naransu and Nalanli for himself and hug them fiercely. Who the F***ck didn't pull it tight enough and exposed your thing? Without waiting for Qin Hao to reply, Yi Shuihan stepped forward and spoke. Moreover, his expression was even more arrogant and egotistical. He was practically laughing with his hands on his hip. That pair of naturally oily eyes also unscrupulously glanced at the woman beside Pang Tianhua, specifically looking at her body. As he did so, he wiped his saliva away. F***ck. Pang Tianhua immediately became anxious. In Luoshui's imperial city, he had never seen anyone more arrogant and lecherous than him. Chapter 342. More money? Not interested. Yi Shuihan's words, "Who's the one who didn't wear his pants properly and exposed a birdman like you?" had also ignited Pang Tianhua's anger. "Who do you think you are?" Pang Tianhua roared, his trembling hand pointing at Yi Shuihan. His face was distorted with anger, his nose red and his mouth crooked. Even the sons of the generals in the Luoshui imperial city would respectfully call him brother when they saw him. No one dared to be rude in front of him like Yi Shuihan. If they were not in Master High Seas Trading Company, he would have already beaten Yi Shuihan to a pulp. Even so, he was so angry that his knuckles cracked. The strong smell of gunpowder filled the air, startling everyone present. They secretly thought that Yi Shuihan was really bold. "Young Master Tianhua, please calm down. This old servant greets young Master Tianhua." Coming back to her senses, the middle-aged woman hurriedly bowed to Pang Tianhua, calling herself old servant. Qin Hao's eyebrows furrowed slightly. To be able to make the people in the trading company call him old servant, the identity of this cuckold was not simple. In fact, this was indeed the case. Ma Lu, who was watching from the side, secretly sneered. Pang Tianhua's uncle was a deacon of the Luoshui Merchant Alliance. The Luoshui Merchant Alliance had great influence in the Luoshui Empire. Although the strength of the merchants was not much, their influence was not inferior to another giant, Dan Gu. Pang Tianhua's deacon uncle had a close relationship with Master Hai Si. In private, Pang Tianhua had always called Hai Si fourth uncle. In Hai Si's trading company, Pang Tianhua was no different from his own home. Therefore, when the people in the trading company saw him, they had to call themselves old servant. Now, he wanted to find trouble with Qin Hao. This made Ma Lu secretly happy. Who are you? What business do you have with me? Qin Hao stood in front of Yi Shuihan. Pang Tianhua was already enraged, and faintly revealed a strength that was not weak. Yi Shuihan was not his opponent. Young man, why aren't you greeting young Master Tianhua? He is Deacon Pang's nephew. Seeing this, the middle-aged woman winked at Qin Hao. Be careful, this person is not to be trifled with. Qin Hao had already offended Ma Lu. If he offended Pang Tianhua as well, his life would be over. Oh? They're from the Merchant Alliance. Qin Hao muttered to himself meaningfully, so the green hat has a backer. However, Qin Hao had no intention of saluting at all. If anyone had to salute, it should be the other party who saluted him. Not to mention Pang Tianhua, even if his deacon uncle came, he would have to wait like a son of AB*TCA. The middle-aged woman shook her head. Qin Hao really didn't know how to appreciate favors. She helplessly said, Young Master Tianhua, why do you have time to come to this old servant's clothing area? Could it be that you're here to buy clothes? Her tone was very respectful. This young master has nothing to do, so I came out to relax. I wandered around a few times, and while I'm at it, I'll spend some money and teach some ignorant dogs a lesson. I'll promote the spirit of chivalry and be a role model for the masses of young talents and save the world. Naturally, I'm also here to buy clothes. However, I'm not in a good mood right now. When I just arrived, I heard a few junior brothers from Guanglong Academy and Shifang Academy say that there's a nouveau riche from the countryside here. He's arrogant and domineering just because he has a few Xian crystals in his pocket. He's even talking bad about me behind my back. So, I'm here. I'm here to slap his face and also to teach some people a lesson. To prevent those guys who look rich but can't get rid of their poor origins from deceiving those beautiful girls. Pang Tianhua said righteously. He secretly mocked Qin Hao for being poor so that Nalan Li and Naransu would understand that he, Pang Tianhua, was the real rich young master of the imperial city. The middle-aged woman knew that things weren't good. Pang Tianhua really came for Qin Hao. This time, Qin Hao was in trouble. Senior brother Pang is right. Even if someone is proud of himself and obtained the identity of a core disciple in Qiyang University, the weakest of the 4 great academies, he can't get rid of his poor origins. Compared to you, he's just a pig or a dog. Senior brother Tianhua, you've finally come to the right place today. In fact, some pigs and dogs are really showing off the Xian crystals they earned from digging dung in broad daylight. Isn't that naked contempt for you? Senior brother Tianhua, where are you going to put your face? Quickly let that dog see the methods of a rich young master of the imperial city and let him understand the gap between you and him, so that the beautiful girls won't be blinded by that dog. This person is a pig and a dog, and also the person you're teaching a lesson to. Senior brother Tianhua, quickly teach him a lesson. In an instant, the disciples of Guanglong Academy and Shifang Academy all pointed at Qin Hao with anger in their eyes. What they meant was that this person was an eyesore to Pang Tianhua. Then I can't help but display my chivalrous spirit. I definitely can't let a scum who pollutes the world run rampant here. Pang Tianhua laughed sinisterly and secretly glanced at Nalan Li and Naransu. He nodded and immediately pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said, "Hey, you pig and dog, aren't you relying on your money? Do you dare to compete with this young master? To be honest, money is a worldly thing. Comparing money with others is beneath my status. But I'm so poor that I only have money left, ha ha ha." Along with his laughter, Pang Tianhua was incomparably proud. He kept throwing flirtatious glances at Naransu and Nalanli. It was time to prove how rich he was. It was time to steal other people's girlfriends, and two at once. Awesome. In Pang Tianhua's opinion, once Qin Hao lost, the beautiful sisters in front of him would obediently throw themselves at him. Women, didn't they just like a little stinky money? He, Pang Tianhua, was a rich young master of the merchant union. He had plenty of money. More than money? Qin Hao shook his head and said, "Not interested." It wasn't that Qin Hao was afraid of Pang Tianhua, but this high trading company was actually the same as the Qin Trading Company. Qin Hao and Haidafu had established a life-and-death friendship in a dangerous situation. They were also friends despite the difference in age. He had saved Haidafu from danger. At least, that was what Haidafu thought. All of the Hai Group's businesses were also surnamed Qin. But in the Qin Trading Company, Pang Tianhua shamelessly said that he wanted to compete with Qin Hao in terms of money. Sorry, there was no comparison. Everything here belonged to Qin Hao. What did you say? Pang Tianhua was stunned. His laughter stopped and his eyes widened in disbelief. Qin Hao actually didn't want to compete with him? In an instant, Pang Tianhua's face was filled with disdain. He originally thought that Qin Hao would struggle a little. After all, they were in front of his girlfriend. Even if he lost, he should lose with integrity. He should lose with honor even if he lost. What he didn't expect was that Qin Hao didn't even have the courage to compete. Pang Tianhua was greatly disappointed. He spat out a mouthful of saliva and shook his head. He looked at Qin Hao with disdain and said, "Trash, coward, coward." At this moment, Pang Tianhua couldn't be bothered to look at Qin Hao. It was too disappointing. As expected of senior brother Pang. He shocked the nouveau riche the moment he stepped out. How can a rich young master of the imperial city be undeserved? I admire him to the extreme. Senior brother Pang is so domineering. The disciples of 10 Directions Academy and Mad Dragon Academy all gave Pang Tianhua a thumbs up. They looked at Qin Hao with eyes full of disdain. This brat was so domineering just now, but in front of senior brother Pang, he was scared like a coward. Nalan Li's small face immediately twisted. Naransu also frowned. In her mind, Qin Hao would never back down. But now Naransu sighed softly. Indeed, even if Qin Hao was recognized as a core disciple by the Academy and received 88 Xian crystals every month, it was still far less than Pang Tianhua's money. Pang Tianhua's uncle was a deacon of the Merchant Union. The amount of Xian crystals he received was immeasurable. Chapter 343. Take off. In the eyes of the middle-aged woman, she admired Qin Hao's decision to avoid the battle. Qin Hao knew himself well. How could he compare to young Master Pang? I thought he had some strength. I like to compete with strong people in the Imperial City. I didn't expect him to be such a coward. What a coward! He ruined my mood. Pang Tianhua waved his hand and snorted. He was disappointed but also proud. After all, he was a true dragon, not someone like Qin Hao could compare to. The two beautiful sisters would probably view him in a new light. At this moment, he must have despised Qin Hao's actions and felt that he, Pang Tianhua, was the high and mighty young master of a prestigious family. I'll work harder. I'll follow up. Pang Tianhua made up his mind. He looked at the female companions of the 10 Directions Academy and Wild Dragon Academy and nodded. He pretended to be generous and said, It's not easy for you to come out. Today I'll be the host. You can choose any clothes in the clothing area. I'll pay for it. The clothes here were made of excellent materials. A set was worth at least 5 or 6 low-grade Xian crystals. The more expensive ones could reach 10. There were also 7 or 8 female disciples following behind Pang Tianhua to watch the show. All in all, he had to pay more than 100 Xian crystals. It was a big deal. Oh, really? Surprises are always unexpected. Senior Brother Pang is such a nice person. Whoever becomes your girlfriend will be extremely honored. We didn't come here in vain. The female disciples were overjoyed. Their gazes towards Pang Tianhua instantly became fiery and filled with adoration. The disciples of the 10 Directions Academy and Wild Dragon Academy were very nervous. They were afraid that Pang Tianhua would steal their female companions. At the same time, they glared at Qin Hao with resentment. They knew that Pang Tianhua was doing this to provoke Qin Hao. Pang Tianhua took the opportunity to show off because Qin Hao didn't dare to compete. It was all Qin Hao's fault. Ladies, if you have any clothes you like, feel free to choose. No matter if it's 2 or 3, I'll pay for them. It's really hard for the 2 of you to follow a stingy pauper. Pang Tianhua smiled and said to Naransu and Nalanli. His actions were very polite. It was time to stand out and poach him. I'm sorry, but I don't care for gifts from strangers, Naransu said coldly with a hint of disdain. Even if I want to buy clothes, I will only wear the clothes given by Brother Hao. Nalanli was already furious and rejected the other party. She had seen many sanctimonious hypocrites like Pang Tianhua back in her family, and all of them were more scheming than Pang Tianhua. Pang Tianhua frowned slightly. How dare this pair of sisters not appreciate his kindness? You don't know how to appreciate favors. Pang Tianhua cursed in his heart, but he didn't show any anger on his face. He nodded with a fake smile. Then, his eyes lit up when he saw Xing Er. Whose daughter was this? She was so beautiful. Why hadn't he seen her in the upper echelons of the imperial city before? Miss, would you do me the honor of choosing a set of clothes for Tianhua to show my goodwill? Pang Tianhua invited. At this moment, he still didn't know that Xing Er was Qin Hao's woman. He also didn't know that Xing Er was a dirty, pitiful little beggar who sold her body to bury her father. However, the others recognized her. They all exclaimed in surprise. Beautiful, too beautiful. She looked like a different person after changing her clothes. Xing Er, who was wearing a white phoenix dress, looked natural and graceful. Coupled with her delicate appearance, she looked like a lady from a prestigious family who had lived in seclusion for a long time. Those who didn't know would even think that she was a princess or a lady from some marquee. The eyes of the Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy's disciples lit up. Immediately, a disciple walked up and whispered something in Pang Tianhua's ear. Pang Tianhua beamed when he heard that. He knew everything. So this lady is so pitiful. Tianhua sympathizes with you. It's a pity that I came late and gave some nouveau riche a chance to show off. You just changed your clothes, didn't you? Pang Tianhua looked at Xing Er's white phoenix dress and shook his head. This set of clothes doesn't match your looks. It even insults your temperament. I think that golden robe suits you well. I'm willing to buy it for you. There was a counter in the clothing area. There was a golden robe placed alone inside. It shone with golden light and was incomparably gorgeous. Pang Tianhua pointed at the golden robe in the counter and said. This scene made the others envious. The golden robe was the treasure of the clothing area. It was not an ordinary set of clothes. It was said that wearing it could nourish one's spirit and beautify one's skin. It was once the clothes of many women's dreams. However, it was too expensive. It cost 500 Xian crystals. Almost no man was willing to buy it for his woman. It was obvious that Pang Tianhua had spent a lot to win Xing Er's favor. It's too tacky. My young master doesn't like tacky things. In comparison, I prefer the simple and elegant white phoenix dress I'm wearing. I'm sure my young master thinks so too. Moreover, why should I let you pay for it? Not to mention that I don't like golden robes at all. Even if you put the best clothes in the world in front of me, they can't replace the white phoenix dress I'm wearing. Xing avoided Pang Tianhua's attentions. She was instinctively disgusted by these high and mighty playboy. She had knelt on the streets for so many days. In the cold wind, there were too many people dressed as luxuriously as Pang Tianhua who drove past her. However, they had never looked at Xing. They were so cold and heartless. If not for Qin Hao giving Xing a chance to shed her dust, the world would probably not have witnessed her beauty. The white phoenix dress was the first set of clothes that Qin Hao gave Xing. It was also the first time in her life that she received a gift from a man. To Xing it had an extraordinary meaning. It was not something that the tacky, shitty yellow golden robe could compare to. You bitch! Pang Tianhua was enraged after being rejected repeatedly. The sisters did not know what was good for them. Even a mere beggar dared to be disrespectful to him. In fact, Xing Er's eyes were filled with disgust towards Pang Tianhua. Alright. Don't think that you can become a phoenix just because you changed your clothes. You'll have to take them off today even if you don't want to. Pang Tianhua was so furious that he said, alright 3 times. Unable to take it anymore, he pointed at the middle-aged woman and said, Aunt Feng, I've taken a liking to this white phoenix dress. I order you to take it back immediately and send it to our Pang residence. He sneered and put on the airs of the nephew of the deacon of the Merchant Alliance. At that moment, even the middle-aged woman called Aunt Feng felt that Pang Tianhua was too shameless. Earlier on, he despised the white phoenix dress, but now he said that he had taken a liking to it. Wasn't he clearly trying to make things difficult for Xing and embarrass Qin Hao? Chapter 344. Arousing Indignation. Why? This cuckold wants a white phoenix dress. You can just get another one for him. There are so many in stock in the clothing area, but we have to choose this one? Qin Hao was very unhappy. Pang Tianhua was a little too arrogant. This white phoenix dress is the last one in our store. There's no stock left. So, I'm sorry, young man. Aunt Feng looked embarrassed, and her tone was full of apology to Qin Hao. Ha ha! Did you hear that, young man? The white phoenix dress is the last one in the Chamber of Commerce, and also the last one in the Imperial City. It can only belong to me. I like to snatch other people's things, and I like to see other people unhappy. My uncle is the deacon of the Merchant Alliance, and is close friends with Master Hai. In the Hai Family Trading Company, I am the god. How can you compare to me? TSK. Country bumpkin. If you don't like it, fight back. Come and bite me. Let me see how much money you have. But you are a coward. Pang Tianhua spat a mouthful of saliva on Qin Hao's feet, looking extremely arrogant. How could Qin Hao compare to him? That was impossible. Xing pursed her lips and secretly grabbed the corner of her clothes. She was very reluctant to part with the clothes on her body. This was the first time she received a gift from Qin Hao. But seeing how high Pang Tianhua's status was, even if she was very unwilling, she could only hand over the clothes she just wore. I don't want the clothes. Xing Er's eyes shone with tears. She did not want to embarrass Qin Hao, so she took the initiative to walk to the back hall and prepared to take off the white phoenix dress. But when she turned around, she was held in place by a strong hand. No need, Qin Hao said lightly. He did not want to argue with Pang Tianhua. But this person dared to ride on Qin Hao's head arrogantly. Letting out a breath, Qin Hao looked at Pang Tianhua and pointed to the crowd behind him. I'll give you a chance now. Put down the clothes in your hands. These clothes. I like them. This action stunned everyone. They looked down at the new clothes in their hands, and then looked at Qin Hao's face. The clothes were given by young Master Pang himself. What did Qin Hao just say? Ask them to put down their clothes? She was even chosen by him. What a joke. Could it be that Qin Hao was a fool? In fact, even Pang Tianhua was stunned at this moment. But in the next second, Qin Hao's performance shocked them even more. Slowly walking to the center of the hall, Qin Hao didn't care about anyone trying to stop him. With a leap, he landed on top of an extremely tall container. His gaze swept across all the customers in the hall as he shouted, "Everyone, I'm in a good mood today. Everything you buy from the company will be on my tab." Rumble. It was as if a sudden clap of thunder had struck the hall. Regardless of whether it was customers, managers, or servants, at this moment, everyone stopped what they were doing. Their mouths were agape as they stared in disbelief at the young man standing at the top of the container. "Oh my God! Who is this kid? So arrogant! You want to pay for all of us? Is he crazy?" There were at least 500 to 600 customers in the hall on the first floor. They had all kinds of things to choose. Even if the cheapest price was 5 Xian crystals per person, it was still close to 3,000 Xian crystals. Some of the bosses even chose expensive antique. One of them cost hundreds, even thousands. Even they felt sorry for their own money. But now, someone was actually paying for everyone. Everything his ancestors owned was estimated to be at least 30,000 Xian crystals. Qin Hao's action indeed shocked everyone present. F***CK. Has this brat gone crazy from the stimulation? 30,000 Xian crystals? Even if he sold himself, it wouldn't be enough to make up a fraction. Senior Brother Pang must have turned him into a lunatic. The disciples of 10 Directions Academy and Mad Dragon Academy were shocked at first. Then, they shook their heads and sneered. Qin Hao was most likely crazy. So many Xian crystals were enough to smash someone to death. Even if Qin Hao died, he couldn't pay back so much money. Before he died, he wanted to save his face and preserve his last shred of dignity in front of his 3 girlfriends. That was what everyone thought. In fact, Naransu, Nalanli, and Xing Er's expressions changed at the same time. Even Yi Shuihan was stunned by Qin Hao. No, it's not like that. My young master didn't. Xing Er was anxious. How dare you disrupt our business? Who let this person in? Throw him out. Before Xing Er could finish speaking, an old man stepped forward. The fury on his face had reached its limit. He was a deacon of the business. He couldn't tolerate Qin Hao disrupting the order of the business. As he spoke, he released his aura. His body was covered in orange energy. He was a mortal saint and was ready to attack. "Sorry, I wasn't careful and didn't tie up the mad dog." Sorry, a voice sounded, full of resentment. The guard at the door ran in nervously. Without saying a word, he pointed at Qin Hao on the shelf and scolded, "You little bastard, I was kind enough to let you in to see the world. How dare you disrupt our business? Get out of here." "Want to leave?" "I'm afraid not." Then, another voice sounded. The resentment in the voice was many times stronger than the guard's. Yao Chan was so angry that her face trembled. Her hair was messy as she walked to the center of the hall. Behind her was a group of aggressive men. "Brother Chang, this is the person who broke my jade. Boo-hoo. He even scratched my face. You have to help me." Yao Chan pointed at Qin Hao and cried. As she spoke, she looked pitifully at the scarred man beside her. The scarred man was called Su Zhenqiang. He was a hired thug of the business. His status wasn't ordinary. He was similar to a guard captain and was a 9-star origin grandmaster. He had long been drooling over Yao Chan and wanted nothing more than to roll around in bed with her. Unfortunately, Yao Chan didn't like him. Today was a good opportunity. He could finally stand up for Yao Chan. He was furious and wanted nothing more than to chop Qin Hao up and feed him to the dogs. He roared, "You bastard, how dare you be so rude to my little sister Chan? If you don't compensate for all the broken jade today, I'll make sure you die without a burial place. Not only that, you'll have to kneel before my little sister Chan and call her grandmother 10,000 times. Don't forget about me, Malu. I can't live under the same sky with this person. He'll have to kneel before me and call me ancestor 10,000, no, 10,000 times. Malu could finally take revenge on Qin Hao. He quickly added fuel to the fire. Good, you're really bold. You've offended so many people. Let's see how you'll walk out alive today. It's a pity that the 3 ladies beside you have to suffer with you. But it's okay. I, Peng Tianhua, am willing to protect the 3 ladies. Peng Tianhua chuckled as well. Qin Hao didn't know what was good for him. He had broken jade, offended Malu, paid for everyone's bills, and wantonly disrupted the business of the business. Any one of these things was enough to make him die 1,000 times. More importantly, he shouldn't have offended this young master. This was the true reason for Qin Hao's death. After Qin Hao died, Peng Tianhua wouldn't be polite to Naransu, Nalanli, and Xing Er. Thinking of this, his eyes lit up. You want me to kneel and call her grandmother? Ancestor? You want me to die? Chapter 345. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio, the courage it gave me, how arrogant. Take this. Below, the scarred man was enraged. Without giving the crowd time to react, he pulled out a machete from his waist and leaped up, chopping at Qin Hao's arm. Of course, he couldn't directly chop Qin Hao to death. Otherwise, who would compensate for the broken jade? He had to chop off Qin Hao's arm first to show off in front of Yao Chan's swoosh. Qin Hao reacted quickly. A crimson sword appeared in his hand and a sword shadow flung out. Before the scarred man could jump in front of Qin Hao, his hands were chopped off by the sword shadow and fell under the counter. My hands are broken. Everyone, look. My hands are broken. The scarred man rolled on the ground in pain, howling endlessly. This was a shocking scene. Someone couldn't help but exclaim, "What a fast sword!" The scarred man felt a chill run down his spine. He was a 9-star primal ancestor. He wanted to show off in front of Yao Chan, but he couldn't block the youth's sword. It was terrifying. How dare you! The old man was furious when he realized what had happened. Not only had Qin Hao disrupted the business, but he had also chopped off Su Zhenxiang's hands. How audacious! A surge of primal qi vibrated and gathered in his palm. The old man jumped up like a toad and landed on Qin Hao's head. Below, Naransu and Nalanli screamed in horror. The old man was a mortal saint. Qin Hao was in danger. What's the commotion? Suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded. It was filled with a dignified aura. The old man had just jumped up, but before he could release the primal qi in his palm, he was stuck on the ground after hearing the voice. In the next second, he bowed respectfully toward the stairs on the 2nd floor and said, "Greetings, 4th Master. Greetings, 4th Master. Greetings, 4th Master. Greetings, 4th Uncle." The 500 to 600 people in the hall also bowed, and their attitudes were incomparably respectful. Peng Tianhua, who didn't even care about the heavenly king, bent down and buried his head in his crotch. Qin Hao turned around and saw 2 figures walking down from the 2nd floor. One of them was slightly plump and had an extraordinary aura. His eyes flashed with a sharp light, and his calm face gave people the feeling that he was born to be in a superior position. However, he was not as bloated as Hai Dafu. Instead, he appeared to be very well built. Qin Hao didn't need to think too much. With this person's stature, it was enough to determine that he was the head of the trading company, Hai Old Four. However, he was only one of Hai Dafu's subordinates. Beside Hai Laosi was a white-haired old man in his 60s. The old man was also extraordinary. His aura was even stronger than Old Four's. He was dressed in a pure white robe and had a red crown on his head. He had a very sage-like aura about him. However, There was a cold light hidden in this person's eyes that made people shudder. When the people of the trading company saw this old man, the respect on their faces became even stronger. Some people even trembled with excitement. This old man's clothes told everyone that he was a member of Dangu. Moreover, he was an elder. When Qin Hao saw this person for the first time, he felt an inexplicable disgust. Even he couldn't explain why. Perhaps the cold light in the old man's eyes made Qin Hao feel uncomfortable. Intuition told him that this old man wasn't a good person. We had a good chat today. Fourth Master, please remember our agreement. I guarantee that you will be satisfied with this batch of goods. After the old man and Hai Laosi walked down, they ignored everyone's existence. Obviously, they didn't have the slightest interest in the lineup in front of them. He said a few words indifferently and arrogantly left. Before leaving, the cold light in the corner of his eyes seemed to inadvertently stare at Qin Hao. He let out a disdainful snort and disappeared in front of the hall's door. Hai Laosi smiled. Following the old man's departure, the smile on his face immediately disappeared. He actually didn't want to cooperate with Dan Ji's elder Mu. It was just that the old man's price was relatively low. That was why he chose to do business with the other party. But at this time, Hai Laosi's gaze was already coldly fixed on Qin Hao. Qin Hao was standing at the top of the counter. The scene was particularly abrupt. Moreover, Su Zhenxiang was lying at Qin Hao's feet with a broken arm. "What's going on?" he asked. Brother Hai came at the right time. This little bastard dared to be rude to me in your territory. You must teach him a good lesson for me. My hand still hurts." Ma Lu was the first to complain. His face was full of anger as he pointed at Qin Hao. "Woof! Fourth Master, this madman broke all the jade wares in our jade area and even flirted with me. I didn't obey him, so he disfigured me. You must seek justice for Xiaochan." Yao Chan's eyes were brimming with tears as she knelt at Fourth Master Hai's feet. She threatened that Qin Hao coveted her eyebrows and wantonly took liberties with her. "It's all my fault. This lowly one didn't tie up this mad dog and let him barge in." The servant guarding the door also hurriedly knelt down, his face full of regret. Now that Qin Hao had caused a disaster in the trading company, he was very afraid that Hai Laosi's anger would be directed at him. "That's not all. Fourth uncle, in order to fight for the limelight with me, this brat arrogantly said that he would pay for everyone here. He should take a piss and look at his own face. Doesn't he know whose territory this is? He clearly looks down on my second uncle, and at the same time, he also looks down on you. You and my second uncle are close friends. You must avenge your nephew." Pang Tianhua, the villain, complained first. "I can testify for young Master Pang. This brat really wantonly messed up the trading company's business, and even cut off Su Zhenxiang's hands. He's extremely daring. I was just about to execute him on the spot." The mortal saint old man from the trading company spoke eloquently and righteously. He stood up to testify for Pang Tianhua's accusation against Qin Hao. "Oh? You want to pay for everyone? Ha ha!" Hai Laosi sneered. Then his gaze sharpened as he sharply said, "Brat, you've got guts. I'd like to see how you're going to pay for everyone. Who gave you such courage? Ha ha ha, courting death. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. That's right. Who gave you such courage? You dare to run to the high trading company in Luoshui Imperial City and behave atrociously? Hey, brat, why aren't you calling me ancestor 100,000 times and kowtowing to me? You still have to call me ancestor 100,000 times and compensate for the jade." Under Pang Tianhua's lead, the disciples of 10 Directions Academy and Violent Dragon Academy burst into laughter. Yao Chan and Ma Lu immediately shouted at Qin Hao to kneel and kowtow. "Who gave me the courage to do so? That's it." Qin Hao jumped down and his interspatial ring flashed. But He took out Hai Dafu's token and slapped it on the table in front of Hai Laosi. The force was so great that the table cracked. What the hell is this? A token made of gold. Ha ha. What's the use of gold? It's just an ordinary thing. Are you a fool sent down by the heavens? Are you trying to scare us with gold? Everyone laughed even more unscrupulously. Which one of them here isn't a rich person? In the upper echelons of Luoshui Imperial City, gold is useless. We all use mysterious crystals. Qin Hao really doesn't know what's good for him. He took out a trashy gold token and used it to scare the great Hai Laosi. Brat, you've really gone crazy. You're making this young master laugh to death. Moron, ha ha. Peng Tianhua hugged his stomach and laughed until he bent over, spitting saliva all over his mouth. But Hai Laosi rushed up and ruthlessly slapped Peng Tianhua's face. Peng Tianhua spun 3 times on the spot and spat out 2 teeth. In an instant, this slap stunned everyone present. Rumbling heaven's laughter came to a halt. Chapter 346. Evil is doomed to destruction. Fourth uncle, why did you hit me? Peng Tianhua covered his red face. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He had never been slapped in public since he was young, not even his own father. He felt extremely humiliated. Everyone was also puzzled and surprised. Why did Mr. Hai hit young Master Peng? What shocked them even more was yet to come. Hai Laosi bent his knees, bowing deeply in front of Qin Hao's feet. Western Liang's Hai clan's property, Luo River Trading Company. Hai Laosi greets young noble Qin Hao. Young noble came from afar. It is this lowly one's fault for not being able to welcome you in time. They didn't recognize the token, but Hai Laosi knew clearly what it was. That wasn't an ordinary token, it was made of purple gold and engraved with arrays. It was Hai Dafu's personal item, and also the symbol of the Merchant Union's 10 great representatives. Crack! Everyone felt as if a bolt of lightning flashed in front of their eyes. The Honorable Mr. Hai actually knelt in front of someone? And the one kneeling was a 16 or 17-year-old youth. Was this for real? Everyone felt their hair stand on end. Just what was Qin Hao's background? He took out a token and scared Hai Laosi into kneeling. It was simply unbelievable. Hai Laosi was a member of the Merchant Union's headquarters. His status wasn't low. In almost an instant, everyone's expression changed drastically as they looked at Qin Hao. Their eyes were filled with fear. As for Ma Lu, he panicked and wanted to run away. Yao Chan's face was even more ashen. Her instincts told her that she was finished today. You actually know me? You have good eyesight. Qin Hao was slightly surprised and smiled. What are you talking about, young master? You and our Hai clan's old ancestor are good friends despite the difference in age. You saved our clan from calamity, and our old ancestor had already sent a letter from the Jiang country saying that young master had passed the grand tournament of the 4 countries and successfully entered the Scarlet Sun Academy. Due to being busy with work, Little 4 was unable to meet young master in time. Young master, please punish me. Hai Laosi felt that he was very incompetent. He pressed his head on the ground and prayed for Qin Hao's punishment. Qin Hao felt a chill run down his spine. Did Hai Laosi have masochistic tendencies? He waved his hand and said, "It's just a trivial matter, why do you have to be like this? No, young master, you must punish me. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to the great wealth old ancestor. I was planning to go to Qiyang University to see you tomorrow, but you came here today. What a coincidence." Old Fourth Hai was terrified. Oh. I had nothing to do at the academy, so I came out to relax. I wandered around for a while, and while I was at it, I wanted to spend some money and teach a lesson to some mongrels who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I wanted to carry out my chivalrous spirit and be a role model for the masses of young talents, and save the world. Naturally, the main reason I'm here today is to look for you, Qin Hao said cheerfully. He inadvertently glanced at Pang Tianhua. Pang Tianhua suddenly trembled. He was so scared that he quickly bent his body and pressed his head against his crotch again. However, I'm in a very bad mood right now. Before I even entered the hall, I was blocked by a gatekeeper. He extorted 6,000 Xian crystals from me before he gave up. Alas! I don't even have the slightest bit of status in my own family. If Great Wealth knew about this, he would be so sad. Qin Hao shook his head and sighed. You're talking nonsense. I only extorted 6 fragments from you. You suddenly became 6,000 Xian crystals. His ancestors' money is 1,000,000 times more. The gatekeeper didn't finish his words. Men, break his legs and throw him out on the street. Hai Si angrily climbed up from the ground. He waved his hand and ordered 2 strong men to drag the gatekeeper out of the hall. Bang! Bang! 2 heavy blows came from outside, followed by a heart-wrenching scream. Hai Si hurriedly bowed to Qin Hao and said, I'm really sorry. I didn't tie him up properly and let a mad dog block your way. Don't worry, I'll make him spit out all the things he ate. It's just a small matter. Why do you have to do this? Just let him return the 6,000 Xian crystals to me. Why do you have to beat him until he's disabled? Qin Hao couldn't bear it and scolded Hai Si. Don't worry, young master. Put the 6,000 Xian crystals on my head. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to Great Wealth's ancestor. Hai Si wiped the sweat from his face. Qin Hao nodded and gave the other a you're not bad look. He let out a long sigh and said, My mood has improved a little. However, I saw a jade hairpin in the jade section. I wanted to buy it, but it was smashed by a woman and she framed me for molesting her. Master C. Shaochan was wrong. In fact, I was the one who molested young Master Qin Hao. All the jade was broken by me. I was possessed and shouldn't have framed a good person. Young master, please have mercy. Before Qin Hao could finish, Yao Chan took the initiative to admit her mistake. She knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing to Qin Hao. Her hope of survival was in Qin Hao's hands. You bitch. Usually, you rely on your looks to show off everywhere and don't care about other people in the company. I've tolerated you for a long time because your father is an old employee of the company. But today, you dared to molest young Master Qin Hao. Guards, Hai Si waved his hand and pointed at Yao Chan, throw her out on the street. She's not allowed to return to the Gui Hai clan for the rest of her life. As for the jade you broke, use your salary as compensation. I won't give you a single copper coin. Boom. Yao Chan's face was pale. She was really finished. Once she left the company, she would have nothing and was destined to be a beggar. However, Yao Chan knew that the only reason Hai Si spared her life was because of her 80-year-old father. Immediately, Yao Chan was also dragged out. Why do you have to do this for such a trivial matter? If you drive people away, how will they feed themselves? Where will they find the money to buy rouge and powder? But I have to say that jade hairpin made my heart ache. Qin Hao couldn't bear to see her like this and sighed. Young master can rest assured. Count the jade hairpin on my head. The jade on the first floor are all mediocre goods. How can they be worthy of young master? I'll take you to the treasure room on the top floor. I'm sure young master will be satisfied. But this bitch must be severely punished. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to the rich old ancestor. Hai Si wiped the sweat off his face again. This time, young Master Qin Hao's mood should be much better. My mood is better, but... Qin Hao paused and looked at the donkey-faced Ma Lu with a smile. It's just that someone despised me for being bullied by a middle-aged man because of my insignificant background. He said he was your brother and said the company was like his family. He wanted me to kneel and call him ancestor 10,000 times. No, 100,000 times before he would stop. How about you let me see how many eyes Lord Ma has on his head? By the way, do you know how many eyes Lord Ma has on his head? At this point, Qin Hao smiled and asked Hai Si. Surnamed Ma? Who the hell is your brother? Do you think you're worthy of being my brother? Come, 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 tell me how many eyes Lord Ma has on his head. Let me, High C, broaden my horizons. Chapter 347. My special offer. Ma Lu panicked. When he said that he and High C were like brothers, he only wanted to show off and scare the common folk. In front of High C, how could he dare? He didn't even deserve to lift High C's boots. With a plop, Ma Lu also knelt at Qin Hao's feet and cried, "This lowly one has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This lowly one offended young master ancestor. Please let me go." "I don't deserve to be called ancestor," Qin Hao said coldly. "No, no, no, from now on you are my ancestor, and I am your obedient grandson. This is my honor. Get out of my way. Men, keep a close eye on him. If Ma Lu doesn't call me ancestor 100,000 times today, I'll chop him up and feed him to the dogs." High C waved his sleeves and ordered Ma Lu to be dragged to a corner, kneeling on the ground and calling him ancestor. There was someone on the side who was counting for him, not missing a single time. "Uncle C, where did this brat come from? Why are you trying to curry favor with him? He said that he would pay for all the customers here. For the Chamber of Commerce, this is a huge loss," Pang Tianhua said through gritted teeth. Qin Hao was in the limelight today, making him very unhappy. With his reminder, the eyes of the customers in the trading company immediately lit up. Just now, they thought that Qin Hao was a lunatic. But now, it seemed that Qin Hao had the highest authority in the High Family Trading Company. How could they not be happy because they didn't have to pay today? In an instant, High C's face couldn't help but become bitter. Indeed, if they didn't take a single cent, it would be a huge loss for the Chamber of Commerce. 20 to 30,000 Xian crystals would be wasted. "When did you hear me say that I would pay for everyone?" Qin Hao glared. "You don't want to admit it? Everyone look, someone bragged too much, and now you don't want to admit it. You're just a clown." Pang Tianhua immediately yelled loudly. With his shouting, High C's face became even uglier. At this time, the customers in the hall also joined in. If they were unable to fulfill their promise today, it would undoubtedly cause a serious impact to the reputation of the trading company. However, High C would never allow Qin Hao to go back on his word. "Everyone, please be quiet. I think you've misunderstood. What I said just now is that the things you've bought today will be on my account first. Please listen carefully, I'm first on my account. As for how it's calculated, it's up to me." Qin Hao smiled. Then he explained that customers could take away the things they were satisfied with, and Qin Hao would pay for the mysterious crystals first. This advance payment was at most a guarantee. In the future, customers would have to make up for the lost crystals every month, and it could be done in installments. Immediately, the crowd began to discuss. Some people felt that they had been tricked. But after thinking about it, he felt that Qin Hao still gave him a huge advantage. After all, they had looked at the items several times but were reluctant to buy them. Now that they could directly take it away and pay in installments in the future, it unknowingly alleviated a lot of their pressure. This method was feasible. Not only that, but any customer who participates in this activity today can become a Starlight member of our trading company. You will be eligible to enjoy our new goods first. On this basis, our store will also give you a 1/3 discount. However, you will only have one chance today. Once it expires, it will be null and void. Qin Hao continued. At the same time that he gave them a discount, he continued to give them a discount. As soon as these words came out, the hall exploded. Many people thought that today was a good opportunity. After all, becoming a Starlight member of the High Family Trading Company was a very prestigious thing. This name was loud enough, and they could show off in front of their friends. Everyone scrambled to sign up, enthusiastically participating in Qin Hao's discount activity. In an instant, the trading company's sales skyrocketed. High C's eyes suddenly lit up. As a businessman, his sense of smell was very sharp. He praised in his heart, "Young master has a brilliant move." These customers were usually very stingy, but today they were very straightforward and bought without hesitation. Now that they had started to register and record their addresses, they were not afraid that they would renege. Moreover, no one dared to renege on their debt to High C. High C couldn't help but give Chin Hao a thumbs up. The other customers also treated Chin Hao as a good friend. They thought that this kid had done something virtuous and started to praise him. Listening to other people's praises for Chin Hao, Pang Tianhua's face turned green with anger, as green as the hat on his head. Good, good, good. You have the ability. Also, Master High C, that slap you gave me, I will remember it. My uncle will come and get justice for me. Finished speaking, Pang Tianhua was about to leave with his people. Today, he failed to show off and was slapped in the face in front of everyone. Wait, did I say you could leave? Chin Hao's voice sounded. You still want to keep me here? Pang Tianhua turned his head, his eyes filled with hatred. Of course I can't keep you here, but put down all the clothes in your hands. These clothes belong to me, I have my eyes on them. Chin Hao pointed at the female companions of the Violent Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy disciples. The clothes in their hands were personally given by Pang Tianhua. Brat, don't bully me too much. Pang Tianhua raged. He had already lost a lot of face. If he couldn't even keep his clothes, how would he have the face to stay in Star Moon Academy? I bullied you too much? Who was the one who bullied me just now? Chin Hao sneered, turning his head to look at Hai Laosi. What? My words have no weight in the Hai family trading company, right? What are you still standing there for? Get the clothes back. Hai Laosi gave the order, and immediately, the thugs of the trading company savagely snatched the clothes back from the hands of the female disciples. The female disciples covered their faces and cried, and their cries seemed to be telling Pang Tianhua about his incompetence. Pang Tianhua gritted his teeth. The anger in his eyes was enough to kill Chin Hao 1,000,000 times. However, he knew that he wasn't Chin Hao's opponent. Chin Hao crippled a 9-star origin ancestor with a single sword, and Pang Tianhua was merely a 6-star origin ancestor. Pang Tianhua, I advise you to restrain yourself. If not, I don't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of your uncle. Young Master Chin Hao isn't someone you can provoke. Hai Laosi's face hardened. Very well, let's wait and see. Pang Tianhua would only embarrass himself if he stayed any longer. He flung his clothes and left. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and looked at Chin Hao in surprise. You're Chin Hao, right? From the Jiang country? Ha ha. Heaven has eyes, you're dead. Do you know Chen Wanqin? Chin Hao's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately asked, What did you do to her? Wanqin was a disciple of Star Moon Academy, and was in the same outer court as Pang Tianhua. I don't have the ability to do anything to senior sister Wanqin. She's now the goddess of our outer court. You, on the other hand, dared to fight with our Earth ranking's eldest senior brother for a woman. You must be tired of living. Senior sister Wanqin has been targeted by our eldest senior brother. He once swore that he'll beat you until you can't take care of yourself in the Rising Star competition. Don't be so scared that you don't dare to participate, haha. After Pang Tianhua finished speaking, he laughed and left. Creak. Chapter 348. He was Mu Chunfeng. He had heard from O Yanghong that the number 1 on the Earth ranking of Star Moon Academy was chasing after Chen Wanqin like a mad dog. Moreover, that person was the grandson of the Star Moon Academy's dean, so his status was quite high. At this moment, Chin Hao recalled the joke he had with Chen Wanqin. What if I enter the Star Moon Academy and get pursued? I'll help you select a peerless genius from the tens of thousands of geniuses. But what if I don't like him? No way, I'll protect you. Qin Hao's promise back then had actually come true today. It doesn't matter if he's the number one on the Earth ranking or the Sky ranking. If he dares to pester you, I'll beat him up. Qin Hao made up his mind. He would not be scared by Pang Tianhua and participate in the Rising Star competition. At that time, he would take revenge on Wang Gui. Beside him, Hai Si was worried. The strength of the Star Moon Academy's principal was quite strong. In the entire Luoshui Empire, he could be ranked in the top 5 or even top 3. Other than Emperor Yi Longyuan and Grandma Gui Hua, who disappeared from Qiyang University, no one could be his opponent. Qin Hao fighting with his grandson was like a moth flying into a flame. However, looking at Qin Hao's indifferent expression, Hai Si did not say anything. He waved his hand to summon a few servants and ordered them to accompany Xing to bury her family. Qin Hao and Hai Si went to the top floor of the treasure pavilion and selected a satisfactory gift for Chen Wanqin. Then, the two had a long talk in the living room on the second floor. The sun had set and Qin Hao had to go back. He expressed his purpose in a roundabout way and hoped that Hai Si would take out some money. However, Hai Si's face was bitter, as if he was in a difficult position. In fact, the company made a lot of money today, all thanks to Qin Hao's promotion. However, he could not even take out 10,000 Xian crystals. Young master, I just placed an order with someone to buy Dan Ji's elixirs. Moreover, you know that our treasure pavilion is located in the eastern suburbs of the Imperial Mausoleum. The cost of excavating the treasure is astonishing, Hai Si said. Dafu mentioned the treasure to me before. I'll take a look at it myself when I have time. The batch of orders you placed? Is it that cold-faced old man in a robe? Qin Hao asked. He knew about the treasure and even thought it was a joke. But looking at Hai Si's serious expression, it was clear that the treasure was not fake. However, the old man in the Dangu robe aroused Qin Hao's interest. This was the first person he had met since arriving in Luoshui's imperial city. Hai Four nodded. His name is Mu Chunfeng, and he is Dan Ji's internal affairs elder. However, this person is extremely greedy. He embezzled a large amount of Dan Ji's medicinal herbs and sold them privately. If it weren't for the fact that his goods were cheap, I wouldn't even bother to deal with such a despicable person. At this point, Hai Four's face was full of disgust. What did you say? Is he Mu Chunfeng? Qin Hao's mind shook. His voice suddenly rose and his eyes turned red. Mu Chunfeng was Dan Xian's senior brother. It was this person who had killed Dan Xian's master and framed Dan Xian. Moreover, he had chased Dan Xian all the way to Jiang country. The old injury in Dan Xian's body was almost single-handedly caused by Mu Chunfeng. Qin Hao had sworn that if he saw this person, he would crush his flesh, crush his bones, extract his soul, and burn it with primordial fire so that he would never fall into the path of reincarnation. It was really fate that they had met today. Young master, you also know this scum? Hai Four was surprised. This was Qin Hao's first time in the Luoshui Empire. He should not have crossed paths with Mu Chunfeng. I don't know him. But I'll know him soon. Qin Hao secretly clenched his fists and said solemnly, You have an agreement with him, right? You want to buy all his pills? Hai Four nodded. Then tomorrow. No, tonight, you will go to Dangu and tear up this agreement. Let all his pills rot in the warehouse, and not a single copper coin can be sold. Qin Hao sneered. Mu Chunfeng wanted to sell the stolen goods through the Hai Family Merchant Guild? He had miscalculated. Not only that, find someone to keep an eye on him and report his every move to me at all times. Why? Hai Four, however, was shocked and stood up with a bang. This deal was not a small sum. Currently, the Merchant Guild was short of funds. Buying Mu Chunfeng's cheap pills could solve their urgent need for treasure. However, Qin Hao asked Hai Four to stop the deal. Because I don't like him? You have a problem with that? Qin Hao's face was tense, and his body faintly emitted a dignified aura. I don't dare. Young master, I will do whatever you say. Tomorrow. No, tonight, I will go to that old bastard's house and tear up the agreement in front of him. I will not let him earn a single cent. Hai Fo said fearfully. Seeing Qin Hao was like seeing Hai Dafu in person. Qin Hao had absolute authority over the Hai family merchant guild's businesses. Very good. Qin Hao nodded. But you don't have to worry. I will help you deal with the pills that the merchant guild lost. The price is cheaper than Mu Chuanfeng's, and the quality is 10 times better. Hiss. Hai Fo sucked in a breath of cold air. He was really frightened by Qin Hao and fell back into his chair in shock. He felt that Qin Hao was simply talking nonsense. Qin Hao's pills were cheaper than the stolen goods? How was that possible? Unless Qin Hao knew how to refine pills. One had to know that Mu Chunfeng was a profound sage and a middle-grade 4th-rank alchemist. The quality of the pills he refined was quite good. Qin Hao actually dared to say that his pills were 10 times better than a profound sage's. This was absolutely impossible. Young master, don't scare me. Little Four's heart is not good. You know that I am actually the same as Ancestor Dafu. I don't have any strength and can be easily scared to death. Please don't tell me that you are a king-grade alchemist. Hai Fo clutched his chest and trembled. If Qin Hao was a king-grade alchemist, he could simply call the wind and summon the rain in the imperial city. It would be a great honor for the merchant guild. Looking at Hai Fo, who was almost scared out of his wits, Qin Hao's heart did not waver. He smiled and said, I do know a little about alchemy, but you should be able to see that my cultivation is only at the origin ancestor realm. It is impossible for me to refine pills better than Mu Chuanfeng's. However, the pills I gave you were truly refined by a king-grade alchemist. Qin Hao's current realm was too low to refine 4th-rank pills. However, there was a Yao Lao hidden in Qiyang University. When Yao Lao taught Ouyang Hua a lesson that day, Qin Hao clearly saw a red aura emitting from his body. That was the symbol of a king-grade alchemist. Yao Lao was, after all, a king-grade alchemist. If he was willing to make a move, Mu Chunfeng would be nothing. However, if he wanted Yao Lao to make a move, Qin Hao would have to use a little trick to trick this old man. If what young master said is true, then it would be a blessing for our merchant guild. Hai Fo couldn't help but laugh heartily when he heard this. As expected of young master Qin Hao, who was praised by Ancestor Dafu. He had just arrived in the Luo Shui Empire, and he had already established a relationship with a king-grade alchemist. This made Hai Fo admire him very much. Why can't I meet a king-grade alchemist? Don't be happy yet. Qin Hao interrupted him. Then, he asked Hai Fo to make a list of the types of pills that the merchant guild lacked and how much they needed. Also, he had to prepare the medicinal ingredients for the pills and send them to Qiyang University. Getting Yao Lao to make a move was indeed a difficult problem. Qin Hao had to think about it carefully. In addition, Qin Hao also needed a set of detailed information about Mu Chunfeng. It would be best if Hai Fo could dig up all the dirty deeds that this person had done in the past. Chapter 349. Ecstasy. Nail. Hai Laosi nodded. He immediately summoned a few stewards and gave a detailed list of the types of pills that the trading company lacked to Qin Hao. The herbs would also be delivered to the Scarlet Sun Academy in 3 days. He had to admit that Qin Hao was truly a lucky star. On his first day at the trading company, not only did he greatly increase the sales, but he also solved the problem of the shortage of pills for Hai Laosi. At this moment, he finally understood why Ancestor Dafu would look at Qin Hao differently. Young Master Qin Hao was truly unfathomable. He would definitely stand out in the future. Although he was tight on money, before Qin Hao left, Hai Laosi still squeezed out 6,000 Xian crystals for him to take away. This was Hai Laosi's promise. However, Qin Hao did not take Xing Er with him. Instead, he asked her to stay at the trading company. Qin Hao was now a student of Qiyang University. It was inconvenient for him to bring a maidservant with him. Besides, he had no intention of treating Xing Er as a maidservant at all. Xing Er's eyes were red from crying. She refused to stay at the trading company no matter what and insisted on following Qin Hao. She finally had the opportunity to learn some body strengthening technique. How could she be willing to give it up? In the end, Hai Laosi had no choice but to promise a few saint-level guardians of the trading company to teach Xing Er cultivation. Only then did Qin Hao find a chance to escape. That girl is clinging to me. Qin Hao shook his head and followed Yi Shuihan and Nailin Li back to the academy. He could understand Xing Er's feelings. In Xing Er's heart, Qin Hao was the only person in the world who treated her as a human being. In the past, everyone despised Xing Er and wanted her to get lost. Only Qin Hao was willing to help her wash away the dust and reveal her beauty. He sighed. Today's trip to the trading company was quite fruitful. 6,000 Xian crystals was only secondary. The treasure made Qin Hao's heart itch. Hai Dafu had bet almost all his wealth on the treasure. He did not know what he would find. Even more miraculously, a few days ago, the Great Void Cauldron had sent a signal to Qin Hao. The tranquil water that formed the Nine Heavens God formation was coincidentally located in the eastern suburbs of the Imperial Mausoleum. Qin Hao decided that once he finished the new star competition, he would immediately take back the tranquil water. It was a treasure of the same level as the Red Lotus Fire. Of course, the one who gained the most from this trip was meeting the old man Mu Chunfeng at the Chamber of Commerce. At this moment, Qin Hao was no match for him. He had to endure. As the internal affairs elder of the Elixir Pavilion, Mu Chunfeng had a lot of influence. It was not easy for him to move here. What Qin Hao needed to do now was to find a way to bait Yao Lao and make him refine pills for the trading company. What should I do? Frowning slightly, Qin Hao pondered as he walked. It was not easy to get Yao Lao to help. Yao Lao was a temperamental person. Sometimes he was easy to talk to. Other times his temper was quite bad. Moreover, he had made Yao Lao suffer many times. This time, if he asked Yao Lao to help him, Yao Lao would definitely take advantage of this opportunity to retaliate. How troublesome! Qin Hao felt that this was a bit tricky. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks and was on high alert. His primordial qi surged in an instant. There was a strong sense of danger in front of him. It was spreading rapidly. "What's wrong, boss?" Yi Shuihan asked when he saw Qin Hao stop. Nailin Li and Naransu were also puzzled. Qin Hao's expression was very strange. He seemed to be very nervous. "Get out of the way." In the next second, Qin Hao used barbaric charge and sent the three people beside him flying. His strength was as strong as a wild bull. The first to bear the brunt was Yi Shuihan. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Nailin Li and Naransu were sent flying high into the air. It was also at this time that a row of sharp lights shot toward them. They were extremely sharp and made a series of whooshing sounds as they pierced through the air. Qin Hao did not hesitate. His space ring flashed, and the purple meteorite sword appeared in his hand. He swung the sword in front of him. Ding ding ding, along with the raindrops of attacks, the bright lights flying from the front all hit the sword. Every light exploded on the back of the purple meteorite sword. The impact made Qin Hao's hands ache. The tyrannical impact also made his feet slide back uncontrollably. He slid more than 10 meters away. It was obvious how powerful these lights were. "Come out!" Stopping his body, Qin Hao swung his sword in front of him. A blue sword aura flew out from the sword and completely shattered a big tree in the distance. Wood chips exploded, and a hidden figure jumped high to the side from behind the big tree. This person was dressed in black. He crossed his arms, his eyes were cold and arrogant, and the corner of his mouth was crooked to one side. It was Qin Hao's old acquaintance, Yuan Huai. Kid, your strength is really abnormal. 20 ecstasy nails can't even hurt you. Damn it. Then, Yuan Huai spat a mouthful of saliva to the side. He felt that he was a failure. The ecstasy nails he used were hidden weapons. The material was at the level of a mid-tier murder weapon. There were 20 of them, and not even a hair on Qin Hao's head fell. The ecstasy nails were a treasure he brought from his family. He was reluctant to use them. Now, he used all of them on Qin Hao, but there was no effect at all. But in reality, Qin Hao's situation was not optimistic. The blood in his stomach was boiling, and the hand holding the sword was trembling slightly. Visible to the naked eye, a row of mottled white spots had appeared on the purple meteorite sword. The purple meteorite sword's sharpness was comparable to a low-tier murder weapon, but its material was at the level of a holy weapon. Otherwise, Yuan Huai would succeed in his plot. You son of a bitch! Yi Shuihan rolled out of the bushes. His chest was stained with the blood he had spat out. He looked rather pathetic. This was a mountain road back to the school, and they were ambushed by Yuan Huai. If it was not for Boss's quick reaction, Yi Shuihan would have been shot by the ecstasy nails. Bastard, do you want to kill us? Naransu shouted and pulled Nalanli up from the ground. Her bones were almost broken by Qin Hao. You're right, I'm here to kill you. To be precise, I'm here to kill him. Yuan Huai suppressed the anger in his heart and pointed at Qin Hao. Qin Hao was his real target. Kid, you're quite capable. You stole my mark and made me unable to become a core disciple. You also let that shorty Ouyang Hua beat me up. No one has ever dared to go against me, Yuan Huai. I, Yuan Huai, have never suffered such humiliation. In my eyes, you're just a dog. Even if you die 10,000 times, it won't be enough. Yuan Huai gritted his teeth and said. He schemed against Qin Hao and made Qin Hao unable to become a core disciple. Later, when Ouyang Hua returned, he beat him up so badly that Yuan Huai couldn't get out of bed for a day. On the other hand, Qin Hao actually received the recognition of the outer court and successfully became a core disciple. This made Yuan Huai feel very vexed. If he didn't get rid of Qin Hao, he wouldn't have the face to live in this world. He asked around and found out that Qin Hao was going down the mountain to the Imperial City today. Yuan Huai was already lying in ambush on this mountain road. This road was the only way back to the academy. It was sparsely populated and was perfect for killing. Today was also the only chance for Yuan Huai to kill Qin Hao. 9-star Yuan Zong, your improvement speed is not bad. Unfortunately, even Kongshan Jun couldn't block one of my attacks. Who gave you the confidence to come out and act tough? Could it be that you got epilepsy after recovering from your cold? Qin Hao laughed coldly. You want to be my opponent? Sorry, you're not worthy. Chapter 350. The Dog-Riding Youth. I want you to die a horrible death. After his scar was exposed, Yuan Huai's anger shot up to the sky from the top of his head. He had already pretended to have a cold several times. He roared, Wang Dajuan, how long are you going to hide? As soon as his voice fell, Wang Dajuan came out from the grass beside him and looked at Qin Hao with a smirk. Qin Hao stood in place, his expression unchanged. He had already guessed that Yuan Huai had a helper behind him. The row of soul-dissipating nails shot at him had extremely high internal force. Yuan Huai did not have the ability to shake Qin Hao's hands to the point where they hurt. Yi Shuihan and Nalan Li's expressions changed greatly. Wang Dajuan was an outer court elder with the strength of a mortal sage. However, he had become Yuan Huai's lackey. Today they were in danger. They might lose their lives. You didn't expect this, did you? Wang Dajuan said with a fake smile. I didn't expect that a teacher of the academy would become a club in Yuan Huai's pants. Qin Hao mocked. He subconsciously took out a golden palace feather. This palace feather was given to him by Ouyang Hong. The dean had personally placed a Yuan Qi shield on it, which could block any attack below the profound sage realm. Coupled with Qin Hao's golden bell protection, it was not impossible for him to kill Wang Dajuan. You're about to die and you still dare to humiliate the old man. How dare you? Wang Dajuan's anger was immediately ignited by Qin Hao. He took a step forward, his body surging with orange light. I don't know how I offended you, old mad dog. You always want to kill me, but every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. You can deal with me, but let them go. Qin Hao pointed at Yi Shuihan and the other two. They were innocent. Let them go? You think too much. Today, all of you will die. Yi Shuihan would definitely complain when he returned to the academy. Wang Dajuan would not give him the chance to escape. Almost as soon as the words left his mouth, he had already launched a palm attack towards Naransu and Nalanli. His movement technique was extremely fast. This scene frightened Yi Shuihan so much that he started wailing like a ghost. Shameless old thing, this young master will fight it out with you. With deep fear, Yi Shuihan grabbed a bunch of black pellets in his hand. Without even looking, he threw all of them at Wang Dajuan's face. Qin Hao had a bad feeling. Old dog Wang's first target was not him, but Yi Shuihan and the other two. The change happened too quickly. Clenching his fist, Qin Hao threw the golden palace feather towards Yi Shuihan and the other two. Gong Yu turned into a streak of golden light and arrived in the blink of an eye like an arrow. 1. The palace feather floated above Yi Shuihan and the other two. A ball of golden light enveloped them like a big pot, covering the three of them. Bang! There was a heavy blow. When Wang Dajuan's palm hit the golden light, he immediately vomited blood. The bones in his palm were broken, and his body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. He really did not expect Qin Hao to have the palace feather that the dean personally gave him. There was also a strong surge of Yuan Qi condensed in the palace feather. He suffered a great loss in one move. Not only that, the black pellets that Yi Shuihan threw out also smashed into Wang Dajuan's face. These black pellets were special class thunder fire pellet. They were given to Yi Shuihan by Old Man Huang's son. The explosive flame array of the muddle-headed old man was also gathered on them. Following a series of pa, a burst of fire exploded. Wang Dajuan's entire face was blasted into a bloody mess by the black pellets. His skin was rotten, and even his bones could be seen. His miserable appearance made him look like an evil spirit that crawled out from hell. After Wang Dajuan fell, he hugged his bloody face and rolled around. However, at this time, Yuan Huai also made a move. In fact, he made a move at the same time as Wang Dajuan, but his speed was slightly slower. He took out a scroll from his bosom and opened it. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood on it. Immediately, the scroll in his hand shone brightly, and the faint roar of a fierce tiger could be heard from it. Ha ha! Qin Hao, you're dead. Taste my tiger roaring mountain forest painting. Yuan Huai laughed crazily and threw the scroll out. After the scroll left his hand, it shattered into pieces. However, a huge colorful tiger appeared out of thin air. It opened its bloody mouth and tried to swallow Qin Hao. Qin Hao's expression finally changed. He could feel the power of the scroll from afar. The impact of this fierce tiger was no less than that of a profound sage. Open for me! With a loud roar, Qin Hao opened his arms and activated the golden bell protection of the Great Void Cauldron without hesitation. At the same time, he raised his hand and threw the flipping person seal. The flipping person seal quickly expanded and turned into a black boulder that smashed towards the tiger's head. With Qin Hao's strength as a 7-star origin ancestor, the golden bell protection could block the attack of a 5-star ordinary sage. Unfortunately, under the attack of a profound sage, both the flipping person seal and the golden bell protection seemed weak and powerless. In one exchange, the flipping person seal was smashed apart by the tiger, and its momentum did not decrease as it crashed into Qin Hao's body. At this moment, a tearing pain spread throughout his body. Qin Hao could not help but scream as his clothes were blown to pieces by the tiger. The golden bell protection could not withstand a single blow. Then, the tiger bit Qin Hao's body and blasted him dozens of meters away. Finally, they crashed into a mountain. The mountain shook and huge rocks collapsed, completely burying Qin Hao. "Boss! Brother Hao! Qin Hao!" Yi Xuehan and the other two screamed as their hearts fell into an abyss. In order to protect them, Qin Hao had taken a full blow from a profound sage head-on. There was almost no chance of him surviving. "Ha ha, dead. You've finally been killed by me. Qin Hao, you trash. Aren't you very strong? Aren't you able to ignore my eye technique? So what if you're strong? Didn't you still die in the hands of me, Yuan Huai? If you have the ability, crawl out and kill me." Yuan Huai jumped around in place as if he had gone crazy. He was so excited that he almost went crazy. "You want to die? I'll fulfill your wish." Stunned, Qin Hao's voice sounded as if it came from hell. Bang! Rubble flew into the sky from 50 meters away, and two figures soared into the sky from the rubble. The scene was quite shocking. Yuan Huai was dumbfounded on the spot. Qin Hao didn't die. Moreover, after he was sent flying, two figures appeared from the explosion. Motherf *Ker, I've seen a ghost. At this time, an even more majestic roar sounded. It was even more majestic than a tiger's roar. In the sky, Qin Hao was covered in blood. His long hair danced in the wind, and his clothes were completely torn, revealing his strong muscles. Beneath him was a dog spirit as huge as a lion. The aura of the dog spirit was even stronger than before, and it was shrouded in an orange ball of vitality. Seeing this scene, Yuan Huai only had one thought: run, because that dog spirit had evolved into a monster beast. If he didn't run, he would die. Want to escape? It's not that easy. Qin Hao held the blood sword in his hand and swooped down from the sky while riding the dog. He turned into a stream of light and chased after Yuan Huai at a speed 5 times faster than him. Pucci! One sword. A bloody hole appeared in Yuan Huai's chest. He looked down at his shattered heart and fell to the ground. His face was filled with fear. He regretted it. He shouldn't have made Qin Hao an enemy. Qin Hao was not human. Oh my God! Yi Xuehan looked at the youth riding the dog, and his mind went blank. Chapter 351. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. Killing a mortal sage with Yuan Zong's cultivation, he could survive a blow from a profound sage. There was no one else like Boss. Nalan Li and Naransu covered their mouths with their hands, their eyes wide open. Qin Hao's defense was so abnormal that it didn't seem human. However, at this moment, the way he rode the dog was obviously very funny, but it made the two girls have the urge to submit to him. Wang Dajuan, who was rolling on the ground, did not dare to stay any longer. He used his Yuan Qi to escape. The aura of the dog spirit told him that it was a rank 3 beast, comparable to a 3-star mortal sage. Normally, Wang Dajuan would not be afraid. The key was that he was severely injured and had a concussion. He could not fight at all. Escaping was his only chance to survive. Immediately, he turned into a ray of light and dashed 100 meters away. Yi Xuehan was impressed by his speed. "Brother dog, help me." Qin Hao would not let Wang Dajuan escape. If he did not kill him now, there would be endless trouble in the future. After a loud shout, orange Yuan Qi surged from the dog spirit. Its thick limbs bounced and it jumped high into the air again. In an instant, the distance between Qin Hao and Wang Dajuan shortened. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qin Hao took out a red bow and placed the purple meteorite sword on the bowstring. Creak! He pulled the bowstring into a full moon and released it. Sunset Arrow Technique. Swoosh. The purple meteorite sword, which was comparable to a saint artifact, flew out like a red lightning bolt. The sword spun at high speed and made a sharp sound. It pierced through Wang Dajuan's back and came out from his chest, piercing his heart. Wang Dajuan was shot down like an old bird. He fell to the ground and breathed his last. However, he could not understand why Qin Hao could pierce through his heart like a piece of paper. He had used his Yuan Qi to the maximum to form the Yuan armor technique. Therefore, his face was filled with fear. He regretted it. He should not have worked for old man Ouyang and provoked a beast like Qin Hao. He felt that Qin Hao was not human. This time, Yi Shuihan was even more shocked. He almost choked to death. Boss had killed mortal saint with a single slash. Qin Hao was only a sky origin ancestor, but the power of his archery was astonishing. Naransu and Nalanli at the side were already dizzy. They couldn't bear it and fell to the ground. Qin Hao was simply too powerful. It was simply outrageous. However, at this moment, the scene of the young man riding the dog had been deeply imprinted in the hearts of the two women. It was something they would never forget for the rest of their lives. It could be said that Qin Hao had single-handedly saved the lives of the two sisters. I will remember this favor in my heart. Ha ha ha, as expected of Yi Shuihan's boss. Didn't I say that offending me wouldn't do them any good? Yuan Huai, you dog, and Wang Dajuan, this is what you get for plotting against me. I'll kick you to death. Yi Shuihan laughed maniacally. He walked over to Yuan Huai and Wang Dajuan's corpses and kicked them hard. However, the anger in his heart did not subside. You dare to oppose me, Yi Shuihan? You must be tired of living. As he kicked, he looked up at Qin Hao, who was in the air. Boss's posture when riding the dog was so handsome. At this moment, Yi Shuihan was considering whether he should get a dog to ride as well. However, he seemed to have heard the elderly say that riding a dog would ruin one's pants. Yi Shuihan shook his head. Forget it. After all, there was probably no other mount like the dog spirit in the world. However, Boss was indeed handsome. Look at the blood on his body. How majestic. Look at his bruised body. How domineering. Also, his long hair was dancing wildly. How demonic. Even the way he fell was different from the rest. Yi Shuihan clicked his tongue in praise. Then, his expression changed. Why did Boss suddenly fall? In the air, the dog spirit let out a wail and fell together with Qin Hao. In reality, Qin Hao was already an arrow at the end of its flight. He had held on to his last breath and killed Wang Dajuan. Now, the flipping person seal was completely shattered. The golden bell protection was also pierced through. If not for the dog spirit in the spatial ring blocking the tiger at the critical moment, Qin Hao would probably be dead. Even so, he was still heavily injured. The dog spirit's injuries were even more serious. It had just refined the inner core that Qin Hao put in the spatial ring and did not have time to show off. It was severely injured as soon as it showed up. It felt that God was deliberately finding trouble with it. That inner core was the 7th-rank demonic beast's inner core that Qin Hao had won from the medical tower during his bet with Yao Lao. With this inner core, the dog spirit successfully broke through from the Xian beast to the level 3. Pain. The burning pain was as if his bones were about to be crushed. The meridians all over his body twitched violently, uncontrollably. Qin Hao did not know how long he had been unconscious. When he woke up, he was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. At this moment, a faint medicinal fragrance filled the air. A white-haired old man came to Qin Hao's bedside. Qin Hao struggled to open his eyes. His vision was hazy and blurry, but the figure in front of him gave him a familiar feeling. It made him feel as if he was in a dream. Subconsciously, Qin Hao called out weakly, "Master." As soon as he said that, a trace of water flowed out from the corner of his eyes. To be able to pull him back from the brink of death in a dangerous situation, this method reminded Qin Hao of Dan Xian. In the past, that old man had always been silently protecting him, but it was obvious that Qin Hao had recognized the wrong person. "Don't call me that. Old man doesn't accept disciples. You're really lucky to be able to survive such serious injuries. Moreover, you even killed Wang Dajuan. Old man really has a whole new level of respect for you." Yao Lao's voice sounded. He chuckled. His smile was gratified and full of praise. "Sorry, I've mistaken you for someone else," Qin Hao said awkwardly. At this moment, his mind was a little clearer. He realized that he was in the medical tower, but his body was still in pain. He glanced sideways and saw that his body was covered with ointment. The ointment was slightly cold. It was also the ointment that was greedily devouring Qin Hao's injuries, causing his muscles to ache and his meridians to twitch. But Qin Hao knew that the ointment was extremely powerful. It could heal his body in the shortest time possible. The ointment should have been made by Yao Lao. "Sai, who would be your master? That's really unfortunate. I don't know how much you'll have to worry about." Yao Lao poked Qin Hao's eyebrows. His tone seemed to be reprimanding him. But a wisp of yuan qi flowed through his finger into Qin Hao's body to check his injuries. Nodding, Yao Lao continued, "Your injuries are almost healed. You can wash your body tonight. By the way, how did you kill Wang Dajuan? I'm very interested." "Is Wang Dajuan dead?" "Oh right, I was unconscious for a few days. Where's my dog?" Qin Hao shuddered violently. After shooting that sword, he was already unconscious. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that it was Brother Dog who saved him. "You were unconscious for 5 days, but your dog recovered faster than you. Look, it's over there." Yao Lao rolled his eyes and pointed to the corner of the wall. Qin Hao was not a normal person. Even the dog he raised was not normal. He had never seen a dog with such a strong recovery ability. It was alive and kicking after a day. He did not know what Qin Hao fed it all day. Qin Hao smiled and finally felt relieved. He looked at the corner of the wall. Chapter 352. A blessing in disguise. Its eyes seemed to be showing off to Qin Hao. "Look at how powerful I am. I recovered in a day. You have to hurry up and improve your cultivation." Qin Hao curled his lips and understood its meaning. The dog's spirit hid in the spatial ring and ate the pills Qin Hao stored every day. The 7th rank monster core allowed it to level up smoothly. Its resistance was naturally much stronger than Qin Hao's. At this moment, Qin Hao thought that improving his cultivation was indeed his top priority. After all, the Rising Star competition was approaching. "Here, take a look." Yao Lao raised his hand and threw a piece of paper at Qin Hao. It was found in Wang Dajuan's spatial pouch. "He betrayed us." After Qin Hao heard it, he was slightly shocked. He endured the pain in his body and leaned against the bed. He picked it up and glanced at it. Anger gathered between his brows. This was a letter written by Old Man Ouyang to Wang Dajuan. He wanted him to kill Qin Hao so that he could get rid of his identity as a low-level elder of the Scarlet Sun Academy and become a high-level elder of the 10 Directions Academy. Wang Dajuan was indeed ordered by someone. What Qin Hao didn't expect was that the mastermind was Old Man Ouyang. This old man acted really fast. "I, Qin Hao, will remember this grudge." Creak. Qin Hao crumpled the paper in his hand and clenched his fists until they were trembling. "Shameless boasting. A mere mortal sage almost took your life. That little bastard Ouyang Wusan is a 5-star profound sage. In front of him, you are just an ant that can be trampled to death." Yao Lao said coldly. "You still want revenge? You can do it. Now, can you tell me how you killed Wang Dajuan? If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have known that he was a traitor. You have made a contribution to the academy." Yao Lao revealed a strange smile and patted Qin Hao's shoulder. "That was purely a fluke." Qin Hao's shoulder was in pain. He grimaced in pain from Yao Lao's slap and tried to explain himself in confusion. You want to dig out my little secret? Sorry, I won't tell you. You brat. Yao Lao pointed at Qin Hao's nose with a helpless expression and sighed. Forget it, you're lucky this time. Remember not to be reckless in the future. There is one more thing. On the third day after you fainted, the people of the Hai Family Trading Company delivered more than a dozen carriages of medicinal herbs. They specifically named you and asked you to personally sign for them. When the caravan of merchants arrived, it shocked the entire outer courtyard. It was a majestic sight. Even Ouyang Hong's old headmaster was alarmed. He ran out while holding up his pants. He was very surprised when he saw the Hai family's fleet. What was wrong with this old fourth Hai? Why would he be so kind as to deliver medicinal herbs to the academy? In the end, he found out that it was for Qin Hao. Ouyang Hong couldn't help but feel envious. Wherever Qin Hao went, there were experts supporting him. However, when Qin Hao was in a coma, it was Yao Lao who signed for them. Currently, all the medicinal herbs were stored in the medicine tower. The medicinal herbs are with you? What a good place to put them! Qin Hao chuckled. These medicinal herbs were originally for Yao Lao. What do you mean? Are you afraid that I'll embezzle your medicinal herbs? Yao Lao felt that Qin Hao was secretly mocking him. No, I wouldn't dare. Qin Hao shook his head repeatedly. As he spoke, he shook his shoulders, stretched his muscles, and prepared to get out of bed. At this moment, he was thinking about how to pull Yao Lao onto his ship. You've been unconscious for 5 days. I predicted that you would wake up today. I've already prepared hot water for you. Go wash off the ointment. Yao Lao didn't realize that Qin Hao was scheming against him. He waved his hand and asked Qin Hao to go to a compartment in the medicine tower where hot water was already prepared for him. To be precise, it was medicinal water. At this moment, a smile flashed across Yao Lao's face. Qin Hao nodded, put on his clothes, and went to the pavilion. There was a big wooden barrel inside. The barrel was filled with a light red liquid that was emitting steam. From time to time, a few bubbles would rise from the bottom, making gurgling sounds. Medicinal herbs? Qin Hao's nose was very sharp. He could tell with one sniff. You have good eyesight. I can't hide from you. Yao Lao was slightly surprised. He knew that Qin Hao was very sensitive to medicinal herbs, so he used a special method to hide the smell of the medicinal herbs. Even so, Qin Hao still saw through it. Originally, he wanted to use this barrel of medicinal herbs to compete with Qin Hao in alchemy. Obviously, Yao Lao lost again. However, he wasn't discouraged. He chuckled, hurry up and go down. I'll give you a big surprise. Qin Hao shuddered inexplicably. He felt that he was being schemed against. However, he wasn't afraid. He raised his leg and stepped in. Hiss! This kick caused Qin Hao to grimace in pain. His face twisted into a ball, and bean-sized beads of sweat instantly slid down his face. The medicinal liquid in the barrel wasn't hot. However, the moment he came into contact with it, he felt as though his skin was being burned. It was unbearable. Spicy, extremely spicy. However, at the same time, a warm current flowed into his meridians from the bottom of his feet. It circulated throughout his body and gathered in his dantian. The ointment on his leg gradually melted and disappeared. Qin Hao's vitality was increasing rapidly. Good treasure! Qin Hao was overjoyed. He didn't care about the pain anymore. With a plop, he jumped in and immediately sat cross-legged in the barrel to cultivate. The pores all over his body opened up and his flesh greedily devoured the medicinal liquid. At this moment, his muscles were twitching vigorously. 1. A heat wave spread from Qin Hao's body. His cultivation rose from 7-star to 8-star. 1. 8-star intermediate stage. 1. 8-star pinnacle. 1. 9-star primal ancestor. His cultivation didn't stop at all. Living spirit turtle blood ointment and earth dragon blood. Lad, this is a blessing from the old man. However, you mustn't be greedy. You've only been in the academy for a month, and you're already 1,000 times stronger than ordinary people. Ordinary disciples can't even compare to you in a day. Yao Lao said solemnly. Then, he closed the door and left. Qin Hao nearly died in Wang Dajuan and Yuan Huai's scheme. This could be considered as compensation for him. After all, Qin Hao had done a meritorious deed by exposing Wang Dajuan and should be rewarded by the academy. However, Yao Lao's meaning was clear. At most, he would raise Qin Hao's cultivation to the peak of 9-star primal ancestor. He wouldn't let him become a martial sage. Qin Hao's cultivation speed was too fast. It was easy for his foundation to be unstable. In fact, Yao Lao's worries were completely unnecessary. Qin Hao's adaptability couldn't be compared to ordinary people in terms of cultivation techniques and cultivation realms. Otherwise, he would have lived 600 years in his previous life in vain. It's a blessing in disguise. The heavens have treated me well. Qin Hao rejoiced. A 9-star primal ancestor was enough. After upgrading the inextinguishable cycle art, he was confident that he could fight with a 3-star ordinary saint. The new star competition had also strengthened Qin Hao's standing. It would still be very difficult to get first place. Suddenly, the door was knocked open again. Then, a huge figure leaped high into the wooden barrel. The dog spirit seemed to have understood what Yao Lao had said. It knew that the medicinal liquid in the barrel was a treasure and couldn't help but want to bathe with Qin Hao. An hour later, Qin Hao walked out with a dark face, wearing an unlined garment. He ran his hands through his wet hair a few times. As the former dandy, he should have at least dozens of beauties to accompany him when bathing. At the very least, he should have let Xing serve him. He never imagined that he would bathe with a dog. Chapter 353. Success is achieved, a peak 9-star sky origin grandmaster. Not bad. Yao Lao sat in the room and glanced at Qin Hao with a trace of surprise. In fact, he had long expected Qin Hao's cultivation to rise to such a level. But unexpectedly, Qin Hao's cultivation seemed to be quite stable and flawless. This meant that he had stabilized his realm. This was the first time that Yao Lao had encountered such a miraculous thing. That was why he praised. Not bad. Thank you, old man. Here's for you. Qin Hao straightened his clothes and waved his hand. A pile of shiny mysterious crystals appeared in front of Yao Lao. What do you mean? Yao Lao froze for a moment. Why would Qin Hao give him money for no reason? And there were a lot of mysterious crystals. There were about 6,000 of them. It was quite impressive. This is your salary. I hope you can refine all the medicinal materials shipped by the High family business into elixirs. Here are the types and quantities of elixirs. Take a look. Qin Hao took out the list and handed it to Yao Lao. Before he could reach out his hand, Yao Lao slapped it away. His anger rose instantly. His face was quite ugly. He said in a low voice, "Boy, are you insulting me?" Not to mention that Yao Lao had sworn that he would never refine elixirs in his life. Even if he did refine elixirs, he would not let Qin Hao do it. Qin Hao wanted a king-level alchemist to work for him with a mere 6,000 mysterious crystals. To Yao Lao, this was an undisguised humiliation. If it were someone else, Yao Lao would have slapped him to death on the ground. Moreover, in order to save Qin Hao, he had made an exception and concocted an earth dragon's blood. He helped Qin Hao improve his cultivation, but the other party insulted him with money. Yao Lao was obviously furious. Don't be in such a hurry. Listen to me first. Then, Qin Hao explained to Yao Lao all the problems that the company had encountered, including the fact that Mu Chunfeng had embezzled Dan Ji's herbs. He did not hide anything. He hoped that Yao Lao would lend a helping hand to Hai Lao Si and help him get through this crisis. He would definitely thank him in the future. Impossible! Yao Lao waved his hand and refused. His tone was firm. As a 7th-grade king-level alchemist, how could Yao Lao put a trading firm in the secular world in his eyes? In fact, he even despised it. What does Hai Lao Si's trading company have to do with me? What does Mu Chuanfeng's embezzlement have to do with me? Don't think that just because I have a good impression of you, you can take advantage of me and order old man around. Don't push your luck. Yao Lao reprimanded with a stern expression. His eyes were sharp. I originally thought that you were a great alchemist. In the eyes of Qin Hao, your alchemy skills are #1 in the world. Other than you, no one else can catch my eye. However, you are actually afraid of a mere Mu Chunfeng. I am very disappointed. Not only did Qin Hao not plead, but he also got angry. Moreover, he seemed to be even angrier than Yao Lao. He threw away the list in his hand, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it out. Who said that I am afraid of Mu Chunfeng? Yao Lao roared. He was so angry that he stood up. The primordial qi in his body fluctuated, and a red light appeared. He pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said, "You little brat, you don't have to flatter me. What do you mean by #1 in alchemy skills? I am far inferior to Dendi from 600 years ago. I am not even in the top 5 in the land of Western Liang. You don't have to provoke me. I won't fall for it. You. I have seen through you. You are very mean. I did not flatter you or provoke you. To be honest, I am quite impressed by you." That Mu Chunfeng shouted in front of hundreds of people, saying that you are a good-for-nothing hiding in the medical tower. In his eyes, your alchemy skills are like dog sh*t, not even comparable to a strand of his leg hair. He only needs to blow at you and you will be sent far away. Qin Hao said angrily, as if he felt injustice for Yao Lao. I am so angry, old man Mu Chunfeng, see if I don't go to Dangu and skin you, you bastard. Yao Lao flew into a rage. His primordial qi surged violently, causing the medical tower to shake. Qin Hao was also shocked. It seemed that he had gone too far. Yao Lao's reaction was too intense. He did not doubt that Yao Lao would really rush into Dangu and kill him. This was not something that Qin Hao wanted to see. Mu Chunfeng must die in Qin Hao's hands. He quickly pulled Mu Chunfeng back and advised, "Calm down, why bother with a dog? So what if you are kind and help Hai Xiaoxi refine a batch of pills? You won't lose a piece of meat, and you can also show Mu Chunfeng your skills." Qin Hao smiled apologetically and used his palm to massage Yao Lao's chest. "All right, I will refine these pills. I will definitely show Mu Chunfeng the old man's alchemy skills. I will make sure that he can't sell a single one of his illegal pills. All of them will rot in the warehouse," Yao Lao said angrily. He sat back on the chair and pointed at the ball of paper in the distance. "Go and pick them up. Old man wants to take a good look at them and refine them into supreme-grade pills one by one. Brother dog, go." Qin Hao gave the dog spirit a look. The dog spirit habitually rolled his eyes and ran over to pick up the ball of paper. Qin Hao unfolded the ball of paper with a smile and laid it flat in front of Yao Lao. Yao Lao glanced at it and nodded. He patted his chest and guaranteed, "After you finish the new star competition, I will make sure that this batch of pills will be completed. You will be in the top 10 and all of them will be supreme-grade pills. If you win the championship, What about winning the championship?" Qin Hao asked quickly, his eyes twinkling. "If you win the championship, give me the trophy." "What? Do you still want to get benefits from me?" Yao Lao glared at him. All right, I will give you the trophy as a souvenir. Anyway, all the herbs are in the medical tower. I will not disturb you. I still have something to do." Qin Hao was secretly happy that he had succeeded. He was ready to leave. "Stop right there." Yao Lao slapped the chair and pointed at the mysterious crystals on the ground. Take these broken things away and dirty old man's eyes. All right. Qin Hao rolled up his sleeves and took the mysterious crystals back. It's good that you don't want them. I want them. Wait. Seeing that Qin Hao was about to leave, Yao Lao shouted again. Do you have any other orders? Qin Hao turned around and asked. Could it be that Yao Lao thought that the money was too little and wanted to share the profits of the firm? Don't insult my noble character with that kind of look. I just want to ask you one thing. You just said that in your eyes, old man's alchemy is the only one that is pleasing to your eyes, right? Yao Lao said seriously and raised his nose. Yes, you are the only alchemist that I admire. Qin Hao replied seriously. Ha ha! Get out of here! Yao Lao was quite satisfied with this. Qin Hao's affirmation seemed to make him happier than giving him 100,000 mysterious crystals. After all, he had lost to Qin Hao several times. It was also a very honorable thing to be praised by the other party. In fact, there is another alchemist in the world who is most worthy of my respect. That is my master. Qin Hao continued. His body emitted a faint trace of sadness as he turned around and left the medicine tower. Yao Lao was stunned. He was also very surprised. There were not many alchemists who could be praised by Qin Hao like this. What's more, the other party was Qin Hao's master. Who knew where he was from? Could it be that he was stronger than Yao Lao, a king alchemist? At this moment, Yao Lao was in awe of Qin Hao's master. Chapter 354. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. It's time to show off. After successfully solving the problem of Hai Laosi Trading Company, Qin Hao could see that Yao Lao did not care about competing with Mu Chunfeng. What he cared about the most was Qin Hao's affirmation. It was precisely because he grasped this subtle psychology that Qin Hao was able to sneak in. However, Yao Lao's understanding of alchemy was far above Dan Xian's. His reputation as a grade 7 alchemist was not undeserved. After leaving the medical tower, the dog spirit went back into the spatial ring. Qin Hao did not go back to Yishuihan. Instead, he went to the armament pavilion in the outer court. As he walked, he checked the spatial ring with his mind and found the purple meteorite sword, the palace feather, and even the inverting person seal. Yishuihan must have helped to pick them up. However, the inverting person seal was completely damaged. The illusory weapon formation on it was also broken. There was no way to repair it. It's time to melt it. Qin Hao sighed. The inverting person seal had made a lot of contributions on the way out of Jiang country. It was a small gift from Dan Xian to Qin Hao. However, it could not be repaired. After the battle with Yuan Huai and Wang Dajuan, Qin Hao found a problem. Although the purple meteorite sword could barely keep up with his level, it would be restrained if it encountered a strong enemy. The row of soul-dispersing nails had caused spots on the sword, which was enough to prove that it was time to improve its sharpness. The Rising Star competition was imminent. The first place of the Earth leaderboard would naturally have a good weapon. Qin Hao needed to upgrade the purple meteorite sword if he wanted to suppress his opponent. However, it was not easy to upgrade the purple meteorite sword. The damaged inverting person seal was far from enough. Therefore, he needed to go to the armament pavilion and take out a few high-grade items to serve as the outer metal of the purple meteorite sword. After being refined by the red lotus fire, the purple meteorite sword was only left with the sword core. Its power was indeed reduced by a lot. Even if the sword core was made of a sacred weapon. He nodded and headed to the armament pavilion in the outer court. The weapon armory pavilion was an ancient building. It was very grand and occupied an extremely large area. It gave off a majestic aura at first glance. It was divided into 5 layers. All the outer court disciples knew that mediocre disciples could only choose weapons on the first floor. Advanced disciples could go up to the second floor. The top disciples went up to the third floor. The top 10 of the earth roll could enter the fourth level. As for the fifth level, only Sword Saint Lin Feng, Saber Saint Marulong, and Spear Saint Lao Yuanliang, who were ranked in the top 3 of the earth ranking, were qualified to enter. But now there was one more. Qin Hao had the headmaster's palace feather, so he could do whatever he wanted in the outer yard. Usually, there were many disciples coming to the weapon armory pavilion. Now that the Rising Star competition was about to begin, there were even more people coming and going. Everyone wanted to wear a weapon in the competition so that they could show off in front of the other disciples. Therefore, during this period of time, the armament repository's business was booming, even surpassing that of the medical tower. Along the way to the fourth floor, all the disciples saw Qin Hao coming, and they all made way for him. Their eyes were filled with respect, but more than that, they were filled with fear. Some disciples even cried when they saw Qin Hao coming. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed as if their father had died. They were afraid, especially the members of the Red Daddy Club. Their club leader, Mount Ibaraki, had recklessly challenged Qin Hao to a duel with Zhan Wu. In the end, he was killed by a single slash. Now that the Red Daddy Club had disbanded, they were terrified when they saw Qin Hao, like mice seeing a cat. However, Qin Hao couldn't be bothered with them. He put his hands behind his back, ignored everyone, and stepped onto the fourth floor. Look, this is the aura of a core disciple. Looking down on everything, I can't compare. Senior brother Qin Hao has the capital to look down on everything. Even Lord Kongshan couldn't block a single slash from him. With his current strength, I'm afraid he can already enter the top 3 of the earth roll. I think Lao Yuanliang might not be a match for Master Qin Hao. Senior brother Qin Hao has activated the Sword Realm. That's right, that's right. When can we be as powerful as senior brother Qin Hao? I'm so envious. Look, those junior sisters are looking at senior brother Qin Hao as if they can't wait to jump into his arms. Along the way, everyone was full of praises. However, half a month ago, no matter where Qin Hao went, he was still a trash that was despised. As a core disciple, he didn't receive the treatment he deserved and became a joke in the eyes of the other disciples. Now, Qin Hao used his strength to prove that his joke was a legend. It also made those who mocked Qin Hao feel extremely ashamed. Qin Hao? Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind him. There seemed to be a lot of resentment in the tone. Before Qin Hao's feet stepped onto the fourth floor, he subconsciously turned around and frowned. There was an 80% chance that someone was looking for trouble with him today. However, after turning around, he didn't recognize the person in front of him. It was a man dressed in blue. If Mount Ibaraki was still alive, he would definitely recognize that this person was the 6th on the Earth leaderboard, Li Batian, who he was going to challenge. When Qin Hao killed Mount Ibaraki in the arena, Li Batian, who was below the arena, felt very upset. Why was Qin Hao so strong? Why was he the center of attention as soon as he entered the academy? Why was he able to defeat Mount Ibaraki, who even Li Batian feared? Li Batian was a senior student, and Qin Hao was a freshman. Seeing the rise of the freshman in a month made Li Batian, who had cultivated in the outer court for 3 years, very upset. However, he knew in his heart that he wasn't a match for Qin Hao. After all, Birdman Kongshan couldn't block Qin Hao's sword. What? Do you have a problem with me? Qin Hao asked coldly. He felt a strong hostility from the other party. No matter where he went, there would be people who didn't like him. I don't have a problem with it. Look at you, are you going to the 4th floor to choose a weapon? Li Batian smiled perfunctorily. There was no trace of respect on his face. This made the other students very curious. They secretly thought that Li Batian was really bold to put on airs in front of Qin Hao. Now that even the dean had acknowledged Qin Hao's identity as a core disciple, the others had to respectfully address him as Senior Qin Hao. And this Li Batian openly called out Qin Hao's name. Well, there would be a good show to watch today. The other disciples nodded excitedly. No, 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 I'm just passing by the 4th floor. I'm going to the 5th floor to have fun, Qin Hao said casually. As soon as he said that, the other disciples were shocked. Only the top 3 seniors on the Earth leaderboard were qualified to enter the 5th floor. As for Li Batian, he burst out laughing. Ha ha! You're boasting shamelessly. You want to go to the 5th floor? Who do you think you are? Li Batian immediately said sarcastically. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to slap Qin Hao's face, but Qin Hao turned around and gave his face to him. He definitely wouldn't miss the opportunity to humiliate such a beautiful thing. Qin Hao defeated Lord Kongshan and had the 4th ranking on the Earth leaderboard. This was irrefutable, but it was absolutely impossible for him to go to the 5th floor. What do you think the armament pavilion is? It was a place of consumption, an important place in the outer court. Without mysterious crystals in hand, even if the elders came, they wouldn't be able to take a single strand of hair from it. Qin Hao received a lot of mysterious crystals every month, 88 of them. But a mere freshman who had only been in the academy for a month definitely couldn't save more money than Li Batian. Li Batian had saved money in the outer court for 3 years. Chapter 355. Chapter 355, I'll show you 5 floors up. The 5th floor is not a place you are qualified to go to. You can't afford the things there. You should know your place. The mockery on Li Batian's face became even more intense, and he had a provocative look on his face. You don't have to worry about whether or not I can afford it. By the way, can you scram further away? It's so annoying. Qin Hao opposed him with equal harshness, jumping out to pick a quarrel. Li Batian was enraged by these words. In any case, he was ranked 6th on the Earth roll. How could he be humiliated by a new student like Qin Hao in front of so many of his fellow disciples? Don't think that just because you have Elder Yun's support, you can look down on others. Actually, if Elder Yun didn't silently provide you with resources behind your back and teach you cultivation techniques, what are you? Li Tianba roared as he clenched his fist. His angry shout made everyone present feel the same way. The reason why Qin Hao could have today's cultivation was definitely due to Elder Yun's efforts and Yao Lao's help. If it wasn't for Qin Hao's great luck, he wouldn't have had the chance to leap through the Dragon Gate and step on everyone's heads. Actually, in the eyes of Li Batian, I despise opportunistic trash like you the most. Li Tianba pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said. His face was filled with intense jealousy. To be honest, he was also very willing to be opportunistic in front of the various elders, and also very much wanted to show off his cleverness. Unfortunately, Elder Yun and Yao Lao did not even spare him a glance. Of course, he was jealous of Qin Hao's luck. Are you unhappy with me? Do you want to have a fight to vent your anger? Qin Hao took a step forward and said. His aura faintly spread out, causing the crowd to retreat in a hurry. What do you want? This is the weapon armory. Private fights are not allowed here. You must not make a move, otherwise the consequences will be severe. In the face of Qin Hao's aura, Li Batian was so frightened that he retreated in a panic, looking like he was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. In fact, he admitted that he wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from Qin Hao. What a coward! Qin Hao snorted coldly and turned to leave. Fighting with this kind of trash would only lower his status. Brat, stop right there. I'm advising you with good intentions. It's fine if you don't appreciate it, but you still dare to look down on me. In my opinion, it's best that you don't even go to the 4th floor. Hurry up and roll to the 3rd floor. A guy without money should have some self-awareness. Li Batian's words were relentless, displaying the virtue of a gentleman, using his mouth and not his fists to the extreme. From what you're saying, you have a lot of money. Qin Hao turned around and glanced at him. That's only natural. At the very least, he's better than some trash who just came to the academy. Li Batian naturally raised his nose proudly. His words made the other disciples nod in agreement. Qin Hao's battle prowess was indeed strong, but when it came to money, he couldn't compare to Li Batian. Li Batian was famous for being a miser in the outer yard. He couldn't even bear to buy toilet paper. He always took tree leaves. Anyway, the disciples all knew that Li Batian had saved a lot of money in the past 3 years. It was estimated that he had more money than the top 3 seniors on the Earth list. Haha, in that case, how about you and I make a bet? Qin Hao also smiled. He was just worrying about whether he had enough money, but someone came to pay the bill. A bet? What kind of bet? Li Batian's heart skipped a beat and he became cautious. He knew that Qin Hao had won a lot of mysterious crystals from everyone in the medical tower. He even lost his weapon to Qin Hao. Because of this, Hating became a bandit despised by everyone. Now, Qin Hao wanted to bet with him? He felt a chill in his heart. Let's bet on whether I can go to the 5th floor. If I can, you'll pay for the weapons I buy. On the other hand, I'll pay for the weapons you like in the weapon depository. Furthermore, from today onwards, wherever Li Batian appears, I, Qin Hao, will avoid him. Qin Hao said. Gulp. Li Batian swallowed his saliva. This bet was indeed quite big for him. It was about his money. However, he couldn't control his excitement. If he won, Qin Hao would have to stay away wherever Li Batian appeared. This was an extremely honorable thing. Qin Hao was like the sun at noon in the outer yard. If Li Batian avoided him when he saw him, it would naturally show that Li Batian was stronger than Qin Hao. Besides, there was no reason for him to lose. Only Lin Feng, Ma Rulong, and Lao Yuanliang could enter the 5th floor. As for Qin Hao? Sorry, he was not one of them. You brat, give me your face. If I don't slap you, I'll be sorry for my white jade hands. How can I, the jade hand little flying dragon, be unworthy of my reputation? Okay, I'll bet with you. After some thought, Li Batian shouted loudly and nodded to bet with Qin Hao. He then pointed at Qin Hao and said, Let me remind you that the 5th floor has a ban set by the old dean. If you're not in the top 3 of the Earth roll, no elders are allowed to enter. So don't even think about relying on Elder Yun's Jade Palace to enter. That's impossible. Haha, you're bound to lose. Haha, is that so? Let's wait and see. Qin Hao turned and walked towards the 4th floor. Li Batian gritted his teeth and followed. When the other disciples saw this, they also chased to the entrance of the 4th floor. Although they weren't qualified to enter, they could still stick their heads in and take a look. They wanted to see how Qin Hao would ascend to the 5th floor. Speaking of which, Qin Hao's expression didn't change at all. Could he really enter the 5th floor? You're thinking too much. If you're not in the top 3 of the Earth roll, it's harder than ascending to heaven to enter. The rule was set by the old dean. Unless you have the old dean's approval or hold the old dean's golden jade palace. Other than these, even Vice Dean Ouyang Hua's silver jade palace isn't easy to use. After all, the Weapon Armory Pavilion's pavilion master is in existence second only to the old dean in the outer court. Of course, other than Yao Lao, he's another terrifying figure. Qin Hao is most likely looking for excitement. He's too complacent. If he can really ascend to the 5th floor, I'm willing to acknowledge him as my father. Ha ha ha. He's asking for humiliation. The disciples also began to discuss with interest. They wanted to see how Qin Hao would make a fool of himself. They wanted to see how Qin Hao would turn from the high and mighty senior brother Qin Hao to the kneeling grandson of Qin Hao. At the entrance of the 5th floor stood a dark-faced old man. He was the deacon in charge of the 5th floor. His surname was Bao, and he was nicknamed Bao Ironhide. From his nickname, it was enough to prove how cold he was. This was also the reason why Li Batian firmly believed that Qin Hao would lose. Bao Ironhide didn't care about the elders or the palace stones. Unless the old dean personally came, nothing else would work. Bao Ironhide. Ah, no, Deacon Bao. He's a new disciple of our outer court. He has a 9th mark in the forest assessment and is very impressive. Moreover, he has already been selected as a core disciple. Not long ago, he even defeated the 4th ranked on the Earth leaderboard. Kongshan Jun Li Batian chuckled and pointed at Qin Hao, purposely showing off the other party's glorious deeds to Bao Ironhide. Show me the top 3 tokens of the Earth leaderboard. Sure enough, Bao Ironhide didn't even frown. He expressionlessly said and extended his hand to Qin Hao. This action made Li Batian's heart turn crooked. As expected of Bao Ironhide, Qin Hao still wanted to enter the 5th floor? No way. Sorry, I don't have a token, Qin Hao said indifferently. Ha ha. Chapter 356. I'll only go up if you ask me. Brat, are you messing with me? Attendant Bao's face instantly darkened. Without the top 3 tokens and without the old dean's approval, Qin Hao wanted to invade the 5th floor. It was obvious that he was looking down on him. No. I think you must have misunderstood. Why would he dare to mess with you? He's obviously messing with you. Ha ha. Li Batian didn't mind blowing things up. He added fuel to the fire and burst into laughter. His laughter seemed to be mocking Qin Hao and also seemed to be mocking Manager Bao. In short, it was extremely ear-piercing. He continued, Qin Hao has been arrogant recently. He's using his status as a core disciple to look down on everyone in the outer court. He even said that he could do anything he wanted. Not to mention entering the 5th floor of the armament repository. Even if the entire armament repository were to be burned down, you wouldn't even dare to let out a fart. Brat, did you really say that? If you have the guts, I dare you to say that again in front of me. Enforcer Bao was obviously a simple-minded person. With just a few words, he was angered by Li Batian. His body emitted orange energy as he stared at Qin Hao seriously. It seemed like he was ready to attack at any moment. Li, you're really good at twisting the truth. Qin Hao didn't want to argue with Li Batian because he didn't deserve it. However, Li Batian's skills were even better than Wang Dajuan's. He had already touched Qin Hao's bottom line. Am I wrong? You don't have the top 3 tokens and you dare to bet with me. You're obviously looking down on Attendant Bao. Why don't you hurry up and go back to the 4th floor and pay me? As Li Batian spoke, he waved his hand impatiently and chased Qin Hao away as if he was a beggar. Oh right. In the future, wherever I, Li Batian, appear, Qin Hao will have to stay 3 miles away from me. Tell everyone you see that your Grandpa Batian is here. Li Batian raised his head arrogantly and his nostrils flared. He was extremely arrogant. It's too early to determine the outcome of the battle. I want to enter the 5th level. Qin Hao couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. He stepped onto the stairs. Hold it right there. Are you intending to challenge the 5th floor without a token? You're courting death. Manager Bao moved his body and blocked Qin Hao's path. The atmosphere was so tense that it was suffocating. When the disciples at the entrance saw this, they all broke out in cold sweat for Qin Hao. The current situation was really like a wolf in front and a tiger behind. He could neither advance nor retreat. But who could be blamed for this? It was Qin Hao's fault. He had been too complacent. He shouldn't have made a bet with Li Batian. Instead, he should have admitted his mistake like a piece of trash. Deacon Bao, it's not wrong for you to protect the armament armory, but you're stubborn and listen to slander. You injured me and made me feel disgusted. You've lost your status as a senior. I'm giving you one last chance to get out of the way. If you don't, you'll have to bear the consequences. Qin Hao's mood was extremely bad, and his face gradually darkened. You dare to threaten Manager Bao? Not only did you threaten him, you even insulted him? You must be tired of living. I say, Deacon Bao, you've seen it for yourself. This person is extremely arrogant. If you don't punish him, where will you put your face? If it were me, I would have slapped this audacious maniac into a pulp. That way, he won't ruin the reputation of our school. Li Batian said. Although he looked furious, he was secretly overjoyed. Qin Hao was an idiot. Of all people, he dared to talk back to Bao Tianmian? And he even dared to threaten Bao Tianmian? If he could use Bao Tianmian to get rid of Qin Hao, then Li Batian's ranking on the Earth roll would undoubtedly rise. The disciples at the entrance didn't expect things to turn out this way. Qin Hao barged into the armament armory, and even dared to threaten Manager Bao. According to the school rules, he would be crippled of his cultivation and expelled from Qiyang University. This was a very harsh punishment. In everyone's opinion, this time, Qin Hao would have to lower his head and admit his mistake. Good. Kid, you've successfully angered me. Now I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me, slap yourself 3 times and then get lost. Manager Bao said angrily. His face was so red that it looked like blood was dripping out of a pig's liver. I say, Qin Hao, a real man knows when to yield and when not to. A good man should be like a stick that can be thick or thin. So what if you kneel down and apologize to Manager Bao? After all, you were the one who was rude and insulted me first. You have to recognize that you're scum. Furthermore, you have to kneel in front of me and admit that I, Li Batian, am your grandfather. In the future, if you meet me, you have to avoid me like a coward. Just submit to my crotch like this. Li Batian persuaded with a benevolent look on his face, as if he was doing Qin Hao a great favor. Slap. A loud slap was heard. Qin Hao didn't even look at it. Almost as soon as Li Batian finished speaking, Qin Hao slapped him on the mouth with a backhand. Li Batian was sent flying and fell outside the door from the 4th floor. He crashed into a pile of disciples outside the door. You dare to use force in the weapon repository? Good. Traitor. Let's not talk about the fact that you don't have a top 3 token on the Earth rankings. Even if you did, I still wouldn't let you in because your morals are too low and unbearably vulgar. Walking in with your feet is an insult to the 5th floor. Manager Bao shouted and raised his hand to press down on Qin Hao's head. If he did not kneel, he would crush his skull. Oh, greetings, old principal. However, just as Manager Bao reached out his hand, he fell flat on his face and landed at Qin Hao's feet. At this moment, a golden feather was raised above Qin Hao's head. Everyone knew that this feather belonged to Ouyang Hong's principal. At this moment, Bao Pai's limbs started to tremble. I don't have a top 3 token on the Earth board, nor did I get old man Ouyang's permission. However, he gave me this toy and said that I can do whatever I want in the outer court. I can get whatever I want and whatever I buy will be cheap. I think I have the right to enter the 5th floor now? Qin Hao asked coldly. His tone was very cold. Yes, of course. Bao Pai did not dare to stop Qin Hao. He quickly crawled away like a dog so that he would not block Qin Hao's path. This scene caused the jaws of all the disciples at the door to drop to the ground. Li Batian also let out a heart-wrenching cry. This is impossible. Why would the principal's feather appear in Qin Hao's hands? Good, you don't even dare to do it. You stole Elder Yun's jade feather a while ago, and today you stole the old principal's feather. Are you going to steal Manager Bao's wife tomorrow? Manager Bao, if you can even tolerate this. Slap. Without giving Li Batian a chance to finish his sentence, Bao Pai's face was filled with rage. He clenched his teeth and slapped Li Batian in the face. This slap was much more vicious than Qin Hao's. Li Batian cried out as his body smashed through the wall and flew out of the 4th floor. The other disciples sucked in a breath of cold air. Young Master Qin Hao, right? Now that no one is in your way, the door to the 5th floor is open for you. She is asking you to enter, please. Manager Bao beamed with joy as he waved his hand in an inviting gesture. Chapter 357. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. The spearhead is mine. Thump. Attendant Bao was shocked. Qin Hao had received orders from the dean to collect the armor and weapons. However, he had stopped Qin Hao from doing so. If Qin Hao refused to participate in the competition because of this, Attendant Bao doubted that he would be able to stay in the college if the dean blamed him. Qin Hao had to enter the 5th floor. How can that be? You must enter the 5th floor. To be honest, the 5th floor was set up for you. Attendant Bao said nervously with a pleading look. The 5th floor was set up for me? I, Qin Hao, am not worthy of it. I am just a disciple with low morals. I don't have the right to enter. Qin Hao hurriedly waved his hand, looking ashamed. No. In my eyes, young master is benevolent and virtuous, and you're the role model of the outer court disciples, the idol of young girls, the treasure of the various elders, and the favorite student of the dean. Your character is surely top-notch. Young master, quickly come in. Attendant Bao called out. He kicked the door to the 5th floor to prevent it from blocking Qin Hao's path. But if I step in, it will be an insult to the 5th floor. Who said so? It is your entry that brings light to the 5th floor. Really? It's true. Attendant Bao was so anxious that he was about to cry. Qin Hao had been holding on to his weak point and refused to let go. All right, in order to bring light to the 5th floor, I will accept your invitation. Qin Hao sighed with a reluctant look on his face. The disciples at the door were dumbfounded. They had thought that Qin Hao would not be able to enter the room of the Earth Board's 3 sages under Bao Tiepi's watch. But now, not only did he enter, Bao Tiepi was begging Qin Hao and Qin Hao was unwilling. The contrast was too great. Li Batian, who had been thrown out of the weapon depository, heard the conversation between the two and his face turned ashen. He felt that the money he had saved for 3 years was mercilessly flying from his pocket to Qin Hao. That was a painful realization. Just as Qin Hao was about to enter, he shook his head. Seeing this, Bao Tiepi's heart jumped to his throat. What was wrong with Qin Hao? Just now, I made a bet with someone that Li Batian will pay for all the weapons taken away from the 5th floor today. It doesn't seem right for him to not come in, right? Qin Hao said, looking at Bao Tiepi. His tone was not one of negotiation, but of command. Li Batian, why aren't you getting your ass over here? Are you trying to renege on your debt in front of me? Bao Tiepi roared furiously. His voice was as ferocious as a clap of thunder. Outside, Li Batian's heart turned cold. He had no way to resist. If he didn't go in, his life would be a problem. Bao Tai Pai had 108 ways to make sure he wouldn't live to see the sun tomorrow. He stood up with a face full of grief and indignation. He walked back to Qin Hao dejectedly as if his father had died. Tears streamed down his face. It's too monotonous to enter with just 2 people. Since everyone is so interested, why don't all of you come in? Qin Hao turned to look at the group of disciples at the entrance. He then said to Bao Tiepi, I'm following the dean's orders to bring a few junior brothers in to broaden their horizons. I'm sure Manager Bao won't refuse, right? When making a bet with Li Batian, someone had to prove it on the spot. This would prevent Li Batian from biting people like a mad dog and slandering that he was forced by Qin Hao. No problem. Not to mention even a few hundred wouldn't be a problem. After all, even the dean has agreed. Manager Bao said, wiping the sweat off his forehead. As long as Qin Hao could enter the 5th floor, He was willing to accept any conditions. He didn't dare to disrupt Ouyang Hong's rising star competition. The group of disciples at the entrance were naturally overjoyed. The fifth floor of the weapon depository had always been a mysterious place in the outer yard. It was like the third floor of the medical tower. Only the top 3 on the Earth board were qualified to enter. They never dreamed that they would be able to get a chance to enter and take a look. At this moment, many people were grateful to Qin Hao. This glory was brought to everyone by him, so they couldn't help but praise him. Li Batian clenched his fists tightly as he listened to the praises for Qin Hao. His scheme against Qin Hao didn't succeed. Instead, he allowed Qin Hao to be in the limelight. This was even better. With so many witnesses, he wouldn't even have a chance to turn the tables in the future. Originally, he was prepared to announce that he was forced by Qin Hao to buy the weapons after leaving the weapon depository. Who knew that Qin Hao had already seen through his intentions? Qin Hao chuckled. He rolled up his sleeves and led the group in. Behind him, Bao Tiepi followed like a follower. The fifth floor of the weapon depository was indeed a good place. The swords and sabers on the shelves were obviously of a higher grade than those on the fourth floor. All the weapons and armors were of the same quality, and all of them had reached the level of low-grade murder weapons. Qin Hao glanced around and saw several materials that were very suitable for the outer iron of the purple meteorite sword. The other disciples couldn't take their eyes off the weapons. Their eyes were filled with greed as they stared at the weapons of the divine soldier, saliva dripping from their mouths. Li Batian's mood was different from the others. His heart ached. The weapons here were too expensive. The cheapest one was worth 300 Xian crystals. No wonder the Academy only allowed the top 3 of the Earth ranking to enter. This wasn't a place for ordinary disciples and excellent disciples. Good spearhead! Qin Hao suddenly exclaimed in admiration. He looked at the center of the weapon depository with joy. There was a small stage there, on which a spearhead floated. It was pure silver and extremely sharp. It was very pleasing to the eye. Young master has good eyesight. This spearhead is made of 100-year black iron and is mixed with moonshine stone. It's silver in color. It's infinitely close to a high-grade lethal weapon. It's the best material in the entire weapon depository. However, this item has already been reserved. I'll take the spearhead. Before Manager Bao could finish speaking, Qin Hao was already overjoyed. He held the spearhead in his palm. This spearhead was very suitable to be used as the outer iron of the sword. However, just as he held the spearhead, a vibration came from his palm. Qin Hao's palm couldn't help but shake a little. He thought to himself, what a fierce weapon. However, in Denda's hands, no matter how fierce the weapon was, it had to be tamed. Immediately, powerful energy spread out. Qin Hao's palm suddenly tightened, holding the spearhead so tightly that it couldn't move an inch. The spearhead struggled for a while, but when it realized that it was useless, it quieted down. At this moment, Manager Bao's face was filled with astonishment. Qin Hao was actually able to suppress the weapon's nature with his Yuan Zone cultivation base. It was truly a little unbelievable. Even a 5-star mortal saint would find it difficult to tame the spearhead. However, it couldn't resist Qin Hao at all. Since the dean thinks so highly of this kid, he must be extraordinary. Manager Bao thought to himself. In his heart, he had a whole new level of respect for Qin Hao. Put the spearhead down, a loud roar suddenly sounded. It was filled with anger. This roar silenced the bustling 5th floor of the weapon armory pavilion, causing everyone to jump in fright. Everyone looked over at the same time and realized that someone had appeared at the door. He was tall and straight, and his gaze was like a dragon. His aura was rather strong. What was especially eye-catching was that this person was carrying a silver spear on his back. 3rd place on the Earth roll, snatching a saint. It's Lao Yuanliang, senior brother Lao. Why did he suddenly appear? Could that spearhead be? The disciples looked at each other and guessed. That spearhead. I specially ordered it. Move your dirty hands away from this lord's spearhead. In the next second, Lao Yuanliang had already rushed up with righteous indignation and pushed Qin Hao away. His strength was quite fierce, causing Qin Hao to stagger back 2 steps. Chapter 358. Fighting over Naransa. This scene made everyone exclaim in satisfaction. It also made the hearts of the disciples restless again. The spearhead was originally reserved by Lao Yuanliang, but now it was in the hands of Qin Hao. Qin Hao had been in the limelight recently. He killed the 4th ranker on the earth board with a single slash. There were rumors that his true strength was comparable to the 3rd ranker on the earth board. Now, the 2 of them were really fighting. Lao Yuanliang was also a powerful character. He was one of the top figures in the outer yard. The battle between him and Qin Hao was like a dragon and a tiger. It was a rare show. Qin Hao was really something else. Wherever he went, there would be exciting events. At this moment, the disciples' hearts were burning with excitement. Is the 5th floor a place for a bunch of Tom, Dick, and Harry? Who gave you trash the confidence to enter the 5th floor? And who gave you the courage to hold the spearhead? Lao Yuanliang was really angry. His fierce gaze swept across the crowd. Everyone was so scared that they kept quiet out of fear. Entering the 5th floor was the glory of the earth board's 3 saints. But today there were so many people here. They were all mediocre disciples that Lao Yuanliang looked down on the most. Moreover, he had specially reserved the spearhead from the school. Lao Yuanliang wanted to use this spearhead to shine in the Rising Star competition. Qin Hao, however, recklessly grabbed the tip of his spear. He was simply provoking the emperor. He was tired of living. Lao Yuanliang, watch your attitude, Deacon Bao said in a deep voice. He looked down on others in front of so many disciples. It was a loss of the 3 saints' demeanor. But Deacon Bao did not blame him. He immediately said to Qin Hao, I was just about to explain that this spearhead was reserved by Lao Yuanliang. All right, come, let's get to know each other. This young master Qin Hao was ordered by the dean to bring the feather to the 5th floor to choose a weapon. Actually, this is just a misunderstanding. I don't care who ordered me to do it, or what kind of chicken feather I took. In short, the spearhead is mine. Do you know how important it is to me? It's my capital to show off. I'm counting on it to blind those girls in the Rising Star competition. Do you know how much it's worth? The materials alone cost 2,000 Xian crystals. The forging cost 1,000 Xian crystals. The total cost was 3,000 Xian crystals. How dare you compete with me? If you don't take a piss and look at your own face, can you afford to pay for the bullet head? Lao Yuanliang pointed at Qin Hao's nose as if he was looking at a dog. He was indeed quite angry now, to the extent that he didn't even care about the dean. The other disciples pretended not to hear anything. Who would dare to offend the spear saint? Attendant Bao also coughed dryly and chose to step aside. It seemed like he was not going to interfere. Qin Hao had Gong Yu in his hands. He was not to be trifled with. Lao Yuanliang was ranked 3rd on the earth roll. He was also a genius from the outer yard and was not to be trifled with. Manager Bao couldn't afford to offend either of them. Furthermore, the spearhead belonged to Lao Yuanliang. He felt that it was better not to get involved. I don't care how important it is to you. It's none of my business if you want to blind someone. I also want the spearhead. As for whether I have money or not, you don't have to worry about it because someone else will pay for me. Qin Hao didn't back down. The 100-year Xian Ti iron used to forge the spearhead was secondary. The moonshine stone was a good material. It was compatible with the sunset stone. If the smelting of the purple meteorite sword was successful, Qin Hao was almost certain that he could restore the purple meteorite sword to a divine weapon in advance. As for the 2,000 Xian crystals for materials and forging cost? Wasn't Li Batian beside him? In fact, Qin Hao was already looking at Li Batian at this moment. It was obvious that he, Li Batian, would pay for the spearhead. Clang! As Qin Hao looked over, Li Batian was so scared that he fell on his butt. His eyes were filled with fear. He didn't expect the spearhead to be so valuable. 3,000 Xian crystals. And it was only the materials and forging cost. If the school's turnover fee was included, it would be more than 4,000, or even 5,000 Xian crystals. Li Batian had saved a lot of money in the past 3 years. He had a total of 1,500 Xian crystals. If other disciples heard about it, they would be shocked. In fact, he often showed off his money. But compared to this spearhead, his money wasn't enough to buy a piece of spear iron. At this moment, Li Batian just wanted to pass out. Even if he sold his butt, he couldn't pay back so much money. Moreover, he had offended the spear sage, Lao Yuanliang. In fact, at this moment, Lao Yuanliang's eyes also followed Qin Hao to look at Li Batian. His voice was as cold as ice. "You want to stand up for Qin Hao, right?" In his eyes, killing intent surged. "No, no, no, Senior Brother Lao, I don't dare to offend you. In fact, I'm also a victim. Qin Hao forced me. If I didn't pay him, he would kill me. Please save me. I, Li Batian, am willing to be your dog. I'll be at your beck and call, willing to do anything for you. And as long as you save me, I'll give all my money to you, Senior Brother Lao." Under that sharp gaze, Li Batian knelt down and kowtowed in fear. A pool of stinky urine flowed out. Seeing this, everyone sneered. The 6th place on the Earth list was scared to the point of peeing by the eyes of the 3rd place. Li Batian was indeed a guy who looked strong in appearance but was weak in reality. But he was smart. He took this opportunity to complain and put the blame on Qin Hao. This deepened the hatred between him and Lao Yuanliang. The other disciples couldn't help admiring Li Batian's cleverness. "So that's how it is. You have guts. Not only did you steal my spearhead, but you also blackmailed your junior brother in the school. Today I have to teach you a lesson." Lao Yuanliang smiled proudly. In an instant, he was in cahoots with Li Batian. Between his words, he was already pointing at Qin Hao's nose. "Kid, you've been very arrogant recently. You killed Lord Kongshan with one sword. Forgive me for being blunt, but in my eyes, Lord Kongshan is trash. I'm not targeting him. In fact, everyone here is trash. I've wanted to take care of you for a long time, but I never had the chance. How about it? Fight with me. If you win, I'll give you the spearhead with both hands. But if you lose, stay away from Naransu. And in the future, you'll call me father when you see me. Qin Hao, do you dare to fight with me?" With a loud shout, Lao Yuanliang suddenly took a step forward. Suddenly, the 5th floor shook violently. All the weapons made a series of clanging sounds. This momentum scared the other disciples into retreating. They had already begun to pray for Qin Hao in their hearts. "Fight with you? Sure," Qin Hao said indifferently. There was no fear on his face. "But what does our battle have to do with little sister Zhu? She's my friend. No matter if I win or lose, I won't avoid her." You dog, what are you calling Naransu for? Little sister Zhu? You've developed to this point? I can't tolerate it. You're treating me, Lao Yuanliang, like air. Alright, to tell you the truth, I've taken a fancy to her. I want to spend a night with her. So, my woman, you'll have to stay far away from me. If you dare to call her little sister Zhu again, I'll let you see blood. Lao Yuanliang was mad with anger. He shouted arrogantly without hiding it. This was the first time he spoke of his feelings for Naransu in public. It was no different from a public confession. It also made Qin Hao understand the real reason for the other party's challenge. The spearhead was secondary. Whoever won would be qualified to be with Naransu. Chapter 359. Aerial Battle, F***CK. So Lao Yuanliang likes Naransu? This is not a secret in the outer court. Don't you know? Nonsense, even a dog knows about this. Are you looking down on me? The disciples were discussing among themselves. Qin Hao and Lao Yuanliang were going to fight today. Some of the female disciples left the scene quietly and went to the female dormitory. They wanted to inform Naransu that 2 men in the armament depository were fighting because of her. These 2 men were the most famous geniuses in the outer court. Naransu was proud of them. If you want to fight, then let's fight. I won't give you the spearhead. I won't hide from Naransu either. Qin Hao did not want to waste any more time. Yuan Qi revolved around his body. Since you want to die, I'll send you on your way. Come with me if you have the guts. For the spearhead and for Naransu, how could Lao Yuanliang give up? The armament depository was an important place in the school. Fighting was not allowed. Therefore, he gathered his Yuan Qi and jumped out of the window. He wanted to fight Qin Hao to the death outside. Seeing this, Qin Hao also jumped out of the armament depository and landed firmly on the ground. The disciples in the armament depository quickly chased after them. They were extremely excited. A fight between 2 peerless experts would definitely be a fight of the century. Qin Hao, oh Qin Hao. Thank you for Yuanliang's help. Your good days are coming to an end. Li Batian smiled sinisterly and chased after them. He wanted to see Qin Hao die under Lao Yuanliang's spear. This was the consequence of going against him. You overestimate yourself. Administrator Bao did not hide his sarcasm. Although Qin Hao was a core disciple and was not weak, he was definitely not Lao Yuanliang's match. Lao Yuanliang was one of the 3 strongest saints in the outer court. Qin Hao was just a freshman. How could he defeat the spear saint? Unless the sun rose from the west. Even though attendant Bao looked down on Qin Hao, he still left the armament repository with interest and decided to watch the battle. Outside, Qin Hao and Lao Yuanliang were facing each other with a distance of 5 meters between them. Before they even made a move, their auras had already spread out, making the spectating disciples so nervous that they almost suffocated. They secretly clenched their fists. Whoosh! Lao Yuanliang took down the silver spear on his back and elegantly brandished it a few times. He pointed the tip of the spear at Qin Hao and said, Lao Yuanliang, join the battle. Come and fight. Qin Hao's spatial ring flashed, and the purple meteorite sword appeared in his hand. The tip of the sword was pointed at the ground, and there was no fear on his face. Lao Yuanliang's silver spear was not ordinary and was a low-grade weapon. Naturally, Qin Hao could not afford to be careless, not to mention that the opponent was a saint-level expert whose realm was higher than his. Do you feel it? My spear tip is burning. Lao Yuanliang's lips curled into a mocking smile. He did not put Qin Hao in his eyes at all. He and Kongshan Jun were not on the same level. If Qin Hao could defeat him, then Lao Yuanliang's 3 years of fame in the academy would be wasted. You talk too much nonsense. Qin Hao was a little impatient. Only with a fearless heart can one soar in the sky. But you are obviously putting on an act. Let's see how long you can remain calm. Lao Yuanliang was still smiling. Please hurry up and make a move. Qin Hao replied. A brave warrior surpasses life and death. Since you are in a hurry to die, then I will take your head. Lao Yuanliang's Yuan Qi surged, and a ball of orange light appeared. He suddenly jumped and shoveled his spear at Qin Hao's feet. Suddenly, lightning flashed on the tip of his spear. If the attack hit, Qin Hao would definitely be struck by lightning. But his move had already been seen through by Qin Hao. In an instant, he used his water wind steps and moved out. There was a loud bang. Lao Yuanliang's spear dug out a smoking black hole at Qin Hao's position. Its power was shocking, causing many disciples to break out in cold sweat. Fortunately, Qin Hao's speed was fast enough and he managed to dodge in time. Insignificant skill, you dare to show off in front of me, the spear saint? Lao Yuanliang snorted. His body technique flashed quickly and he appeared in front of Qin Hao. His spear pierced forward fiercely. Swish, 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 swish. Qin Hao had just stabilized himself when the spear tip flashed in front of his face. He was slightly shocked and secretly thought that Lao Yuanliang had the ability to dodge. But it was a pity that it was not as fast as his water wind steps. He flashed again and dodged the spear tip. Kid, you have some ability. You run faster than a rabbit. But if you only know how to dodge, then in my eyes, you are undoubtedly trash. Do you dare to fight me head-on? Lao Yuanliang had already seen Qin Hao's speed. It was indeed very fast. But his two-stage displacement and sudden piercing still could not hurt Qin Hao at all. At this moment, he did not dare to be careless. Lao Yuanliang knew very well that his speed could not catch up to Qin Hao. What's the harm in fighting head-on? Come. Qin Hao got into a fighting stance. After testing twice, he had also figured out Lao Yuanliang's spear technique. If he grasped the opportunity, he could kill this person with one strike. Haha, the level of fighting on the ground is too low. Why don't we do something new? I believe that all the junior brothers who have not reached the sage level are very eager to fight in the air, right? Today, I will cover up for you and kill the enemy in the air. Lao Yuanliang pondered again and realized that Qin Hao's strength seemed to have improved again. Back then, he had killed Lord Kongshan when he was at the 7-star Yuan sect. If he was at the 9-star level now, it would indeed be quite troublesome for Lao Yuanliang. An idea flashed in his mind, and he had the idea of fighting in the air. After all, saint-level powerhouses had powerful flying abilities. However, Qin Hao was far inferior to him, Lao Yuanliang. Therefore, he wanted to use his advantage to bully Qin Hao's disadvantage. When the disciples heard this, they became even more enthusiastic. Fighting in the air. It was indeed very desirable. After all, most of the disciples here were Yuan sects and wanted to reach the sage level in the future. To be able to see fighting techniques in the air in advance was undoubtedly a valuable experience for them. Although it seemed that Lao Yuanliang was bullying Qin Hao, he did do a good thing. Unfortunately, Qin Hao was the unlucky one. He would most likely be tortured to death in the air by Lao Yuanliang. In fact, at this moment, Li Batian was howling excitedly. Ha ha! Fighting in the air? That's too exciting. Qin Hao, are you scared out of your wits? If that's the case, I'm sorry, I won't pay you. If a coward like you spends my mystic crystals, it will be an insult to me. That's right. Senior brother Qin Hao, are you afraid? Why don't you kneel down and apologize to senior brother Lao? It's not shameful to be senior brother Lao's grandson. In fact, it's quite an honor. Some disciples jeered, as if they wanted to be Lao Yuanliang's grandson. In fact, Qin Hao did not immediately agree. Instead, he stood there and thought for a long time, as if he was struggling in his heart. When the other disciples saw this, their words became more sarcastic, and they all accused Qin Hao of being scared. Fighting in the air? Okay, I'll fight with you. Suddenly, Qin Hao spoke and nodded in agreement. He did not answer just now, not because he was scared. Instead, Qin Hao went through the battle dragon cloud soaring art in his previous life in his mind. Chapter 360. Wings of a Saint. Everyone knew that once a Yuan ancestor reached the Yuan master stage, they would be able to jump and glide in the air, just like Dan Xian. A Yuan ancestor would have the ability to fly, but they could only hover 100 meters above the ground. It was different for a saint. A saint would have the ability to fly and could use Yuan Qi for a long period of time. To an ordinary person, once a person reached the saint stage, they would be no different from an immortal. The difference between a Yuan ancestor and a mortal saint was not small. Qin Hao and Lao Yuanliang competing in the air? It was no different from courting death. Everyone nodded. Haha. Let's see how long you can be arrogant. Open your eyes wide and see clearly. Lao Yuanliang was overjoyed. On the surface, he still looked decent. With a roar, the orange yuan qi on his body expanded rapidly. A pair of illusory wings appeared on his back. The wings were faintly discernible and looked very sacred. At this moment, Lao Yuanliang flapped his saint wings and slowly rose into the air. Yuan qi wings. Yuan qi wings. The essential difference between a saint and a Yuan ancestor is Yuan qi wings. With Yuan qi wings, senior brother Lao can completely crush Qin Hao in the air. Qin Hao has 10, 100 lives. It won't be enough for senior brother Lao to kill him. The scene in front of them was rather shocking. Usually, the elders of the outer court rarely fought and would not form their Yuan qi wings. Today was the first time the disciples had seen a saint's Yuan qi wings. Li Batian was overjoyed. Based on the situation, Qin Hao was definitely going to die. Qin Hao raised his head slightly and looked at the birdman, with transparent wings in the air. The wings on Lao Yuanliang's back were very thin, and it was difficult for him to maintain them. After all, forming Yuan qi wings was a little difficult for a one-star mortal saint. Even so, the instant the wings appeared, his speed also received a qualitative leap. However, Qin Hao was not afraid. With a roar, he rose into the air with his sword. His body was gradually pulled to the same height as Lao Yuanliang, and they looked at each other. Although Qin Hao did not have the ability to form Yuan qi wings, his Yuan qi wings were denser than Lao Yuanliang. His dense Yuan qi was enough to make up for his lack of Yuan qi wings. Qin Hao really went up? You really don't know what death is. Without Yuan qi wings, he wants to defeat senior brother Lao? If I were him, I would have knelt and kowtowed to the sky. You actually dare to come up? In the air, Lao Yuanliang was senior brother Lao Yuanliang. He wondered if Qin Hao's brain had been flooded with water. He didn't even have elemental wings, yet he still dared to engage in aerial combat with him. It was precisely because of this that he felt his dignity being trampled on. How could Qin Hao, who had no wings, challenge Lao Yuanliang, who had wings? Unforgivable! Wu Lin's Lin to Dao. Wu of Lao Wang. With a furious roar, Lao Yuanliang held the long spear in his hand. With a flap of his yuan wings, his body transformed into a stream of light and charged towards Qin Hao. Everywhere he passed, space would shatter. His speed was extremely quick. The one who should scram is you. Qin Hao's blue yuan qi rose rapidly, and his aura burned like a raging fire. Just as Lao Yuanliang was about to reach him, he raised his sword and met Lao Yuanliang's attack head-on. Boom! When the sword and spear collided, there was an explosion in the air. It was as if a huge thunderbolt had struck, and all the disciples on the ground were pressed to the ground. Everyone was terrified. Was this the power of a saint? Was this the fighting power of a saint? Wu Lin was inhumanly strong. The collision in the air caused Lao Yuanliang's body to slide back dozens of meters, and the palm of his spear was numb. On the other hand, Qin Hao was like a giant rock, not moving at all. His body did not even sway, let alone retreat. This made Lao Yuanliang feel extremely humiliated. His impact as a saint was not as strong as that of Qin Hao, who was an origin ancestor. Qin Hao's yuan qi was too dense, wasn't it? Give me the spear head and die! Lao Yuanliang shouted at the top of his lungs. He saw the disciples below pointing at him, as if saying that he was useless and that he might be a false saint. 9 heavens coiling dragon spear. Lao Yuanliang's anger burned his rationality, and he no longer held back. He executed a high-grade profound martial technique, and the silver spear in his hand was thrown with all his might. The roar of a huge dragon was heard, and the silver spear turned into a dragon that swooped down at Qin Hao. Sword Realm. Qin Hao closed his eyes and activated the dragon whirlpool technique in his body. He activated the Raging Fire Sword Realm without hesitation. The whirlpool in his energy center spun faster and faster, and his yuan qi grew stronger and stronger. Buzz. A layer of fiery air spread from the sky, covering a radius of 20 meters. When the silver dragon entered the range of the Raging Fire Sword Realm, its speed became as slow as a snail. At this moment, Qin Hao swung his sword and executed a raging fire cut. Puff. The dragon was smashed into pieces. Lao Yuanliang's silver spear reverted to its original form and was sent flying. The tip of the spear was visibly bent. This, Lao Yuanliang was in disbelief, as if he was struck by lightning. Impossible. My 9 heavens coiling dragon spear can't even break Qin Hao's yuan qi armor. It can't even break into the Raging Fire Sword Realm. Are you a 7-star yuan ancestor or a sage? He pointed at Qin Hao and roared hoarsely. He didn't believe that Qin Hao was a 7-star yuan ancestor. His yuan qi was too strong. In fact, even Sword Saint Lin Feng, who was ranked first on the Earth leaderboard, didn't have yuan qi much stronger than Qin Hao, let alone him. You're not a sage or a 7-star yuan ancestor. You're just a 9-star yuan ancestor. Qin Hao sighed and was extremely disappointed in Lao Yuanliang. As he spoke, his cultivation base was completely revealed, showing that he was a 9-star yuan ancestor. A 9-star yuan ancestor. You've indeed leveled up. What a monster. But why is your yuan qi so strong? Lao Yuanliang couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. The pressure that Qin Hao gave him was similar to the pressure that Lin Feng gave him. After all, Lin Feng was a 3-star mortal saint. Am I strong? Actually, I can be even stronger. I'll show you now. With that, Qin Hao raised his sword in front of him. The sword will on his body skyrocketed as he prepared to use graceful sword to end the battle. He was no longer interested in continuing the battle. A 1-star mortal saint was just SOSO. As expected, the origin energy on Qin Hao's body became even denser. The blue flame aura around him swelled up and a sword intent locked onto Lao Yuanliang. Lao Yuanliang was so shocked that his hair stood on end. He didn't dare to continue the battle. The tip of his spear was bent from the shock as he flapped his wings and fled into the distance. As he fled, he mocked Qin Hao. Ha ha! Qin Hao, you big piece of trash. So what if you're stronger than me? Can you catch me? I have the support of my yuan qi wings. Do you think we're on flat ground? You can even use a displacement technique? You can't catch me at all. If you're so capable, then strike me down from the sky. As he scolded, he showed off his flying skills. He flew diagonally, backwards, horizontally, vertically. He plunged into the clouds and disappeared. Instantly, an uproar came from the ground. This Lao Yuanliang was really shameless. However, it had to be said that Qin Hao couldn't do anything to him. Without his yuan qi wings, he couldn't catch up to Lao Yuanliang. At least, that was what the disciples thought. Haha, is that so? Chapter 361. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio Purple Meteorite sword similar to Lao Yuanliang's wings, the dragon shape was thin and transparent. But it was vague and it did exist. This was Qin Hao's flying technique from his previous life, the Battle Dragon Cloud Soaring Art. It was a heaven-class advanced flying technique. This technique was originally used to enhance the wings and increase the speed of flight. However, even without the wings, it could still increase the speed of flight for a short period of time. The dragon shape below him was formed by Qin Hao's elemental energy. This was the first time he used the Battle Dragon Cloud Soaring Art after his rebirth. Lao Yuanliang felt very honored. Next, a scene that shocked all the disciples occurred. With the roar of a battle dragon, the dragon form under Lao Yuanliang's crotch shook and emitted a blue light. It seemed that the illusory body had doubled in size, becoming 10 feet long. The roar immediately broke through the clouds, revealing Lao Yuanliang, who had a blank face like an idiot. Then, Qin Hao chased after him at a speed 3 times faster than his opponents. Swoosh! 1 slash. Lao Yuanliang fell from the sky. Lao Yuanliang's wings were completely shattered and his meridians were injured by the sword qi. He screamed in horror and fell like a meteor. Oh no! Seeing this, Attendant Bao immediately raised his elemental energy and caught the falling Lao Yuanliang. Lao Yuanliang was one of the 3 sages on the Earth Board and the strongest disciple in the Qiyang Outer Court. He was also the dean's candidate for the Rising Star competition. He could not die in front of Attendant Bao. However, in the next moment, Lao Yuanliang's eyes rolled and he fainted. His face was full of humiliation. He was a sage-level expert and ranked 3rd on the Earth Board. He was much stronger than Qin Hao. However, he was sent flying by his opponent. How could he show his face in Qiyang University in the future? He would be laughed at by Saber Saint Marulong and Sword Saint Lin Feng. Crack! The disciples stood on the spot like wooden block. They were dumbfounded. The Spear Saint, one of the 3 sages on the Earth Board, lost. It was a complete defeat. Lao Yuanliang attacked Qin Hao twice. Even though he was a sage-level expert and had the support of his wings, he could not block Qin Hao's slash. Puff! Li Batian was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. He also fainted on the ground. It's over. Lao Yuanliang, this trash, was defeated by Qin Hao. My money, my mysterious crystal stones. They had all disappeared. Before he fainted, Li Batian had already made up his mind to clean the school's toilets. This was because he simply couldn't afford to pay for the spearhead. In the Yangtze River, each new generation excels the previous one, each leading the way for a year or 2. Sigh. Attendant Bao sighed.